Beloved soul, as you prepare to rest tonight, let this sacred moment become more than sleep. Let it become a journey of your spirit into realms of divine light, where peace flows like a quiet river, where angels guard your steps, and where the whispers of God guide you in dreams brighter than dawn. As your body sinks into stillness, feel the weight of the day melting away. The thoughts that have pressed upon you loosen, like clouds drifting from a moonlit sky, revealing the silent, eternal presence of spirit. Tonight, as you drift beyond waking consciousness, your soul will not wander aimlessly. It will soar, wrapped in the protection of divine love, carried upward toward the infinite. These 6 hours are not simply teachings, they are a living masterclass for your soul, a stream of Paramahansa Yogananda's timeless wisdom that will bathe your mind, heal your heart, and quietly rewire your very being as you sleep. You will be guided through the hidden power of thought that heals and transforms, through the subtle signs that you are spiritually awakening, and through revelations of how certain souls are chosen as divine messengers on earth. You will travel into the depths of what Jesus truly taught, truths hidden from the world for centuries but unveiled for the soul that seeks light. As you journey deeper, you will be shown how to burn away lifetimes of karma with a single invocation, how even past burdens can be transformed into divine blessings, and how mysterious experiences like waking between 3 and 5 a.m. or feeling animals drawn to you carry profound spiritual meaning. And as you rest, the deeper truths of family and soul connection will unfold, the shocking yet liberating realization that your children may carry the vibrations of past life karma, offering chances for healing and redemption in this very life. Beloved, as these teachings flow through you tonight, your consciousness will not remain chained to worldly restlessness. Instead, layer by layer, karmic bonds will loosen, divine protection will enfold you, and your soul will climb the luminous ladder toward spirit. Before you close your eyes, place your hands softly upon your heart and whisper silently, "I am surrounded by God's light. My soul journeys safely in divine dreams. I am protected, I am free, I am awake in spirit." Now, release every last tension. Feel Divine Mother's presence beside you, a gentle hand on your brow, assuring you that no shadow can touch you here. Breathe slowly and deeply, as though inhaling light itself, and exhale all that has weighed you down. Rest now, beloved soul. The infinite watches over you. Your journey into celestial dreams begins. Beloved soul, have you ever paused to truly wonder why some people seem to carry a light in their faces, a radiance that no worldly stress can dim, while others appear weighed down, their bodies aging faster than their years, their vitality dimmed by invisible burdens? Yogananda taught that this is not a mystery of chance or fate, is the unseen power of thought shaping the very structure of our bodies, moment by moment, day by day. Thoughts are not wisps of imagination floating harmlessly through the mind. No, beloved, each thought is a living energy, a current of vibration that enters the brain, pulses through the astral spine, and impresses itself upon the very cells of your physical form. Like a sculptor chiseling away at marble, your repeated patterns of thinking silently sculpt the temple of your body. Imagine your mind as a divine gardener and your body as the garden itself. Every thought you plant takes root in the subtle soil of your astral body, which is the blueprint of your physical form. Over time, these invisible seeds sprout and blossom into tangible effects: health or disease, vitality or weakness, harmony or imbalance. Yogananda revealed that our bodies are not fixed mechanical machines as material science suggests. They are living fields of energy molded by consciousness itself. Your cells are listening, always listening, to the vibrations of your mind, obeying its commands with unquestioning devotion. This is why, when your thoughts are anxious, dark, or fearful, your body responds in kind, tightening its tissues, disrupting its natural rhythms, lowering its defenses. And yet, when your thoughts rise upward towards spirit, infused with peace, joy, and divine remembrance, they flood the nervous system with cosmic life force, rewiring the cells with health and radiant vitality. From the dawn of creation, God designed this mysterious connection as a gift, allowing you to channel divine intelligence directly into your body. The masters have said, "You are not a helpless prisoner of heredity, nor are you condemned to suffer under the weight of unconscious habits forever." Every thought you choose carries with it the power to renew, restore, and even recreate your physical form. Scripture whispers this truth. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. These are not poetic words, they are laws of spirit echoing through the ages. When you think rightly, in harmony with divine truth, you reshape the astral patterns that sustain your cells, and thus you reshape your destiny itself. This hidden science of thought has been forgotten by many in the modern world. We treat illness as if it were a random attack from outside forces, ignoring that it often begins as disharmony within. We chase after remedies for the body while neglecting the consciousness that commands it. Yogananda revealed that the mind is the queen bee and the body is the hive. If the queen moves in divine rhythm, every cell of every bee follows in harmony. But if the queen is restless or lost in shadow, confusion spreads through the entire hive. To heal and uplift your body, you must begin by lifting the vibrational commands center your thought. Beloved one, let us enter this divine science together. In the next part of this journey, I shall reveal how negative thoughts silently disrupt the harmony of your cells and weave karmic patterns of illness. But do not be afraid, for just as these patterns can be created, they can also be unmade, dissolved in the radiant power of spirit-infused thinking. With every conscious, uplifting thought, you can rewrite the destiny of your body and awaken health that glows like a sun from within. Beloved soul, let us now shine light upon the shadowed patterns that many carry unknowingly, the negative thoughts that silently weave illness and disharmony into the temple of the body. Yogananda taught that fear, anger, resentment, and ceaseless worry are not merely emotions passing through the mind. They are powerful vibrations that lodge themselves in the astral body, crystallizing into energy knots along the astral spine. These knots obstruct the natural flow of prana, the divine life force that animates every cell. And when that flow is obstructed, your physical body begins to reflect the disharmony of thought. Consider how, in moments of deep anger, the heart races, the breath grows shallow, and muscles tighten as though preparing for battle. The body obeys the mind's command instantly. Similarly, long-held fear sends silent signals through the nervous system, keeping your cells in a state of chronic tension, unable to fully regenerate or heal. When hopelessness or self-doubt lingers day after day, it suppresses the vibratory intelligence of the body, weakening its immune defenses and even altering its chemistry. Modern science calls this stress, but Yogananda saw it as something far deeper, karma being written into the body through thought, vibrating down into the astral and physical planes. Even memories from the past can leave lingering impressions on your cellular consciousness. Traumas unhealed, regrets unredeemed, these dwell in the subconscious as thought forms that replay their energy over and over, subtly shaping posture, breath, and cellular behavior. A person who silently repeats to themselves, "I am weak, I am unworthy," is unknowingly instructing trillions of obedient cells to echo that belief. These cells, like loyal servants, align their functioning to match the vibration of the mind. Over time, this becomes not just a thought but a lived physical reality. But beloved, do not be disheartened. What has been written in the language of negative thought can be rewritten in the luminous script of divine remembrance. Yogananda revealed that just as darkness cannot survive before a lamp's flame, no negative vibration can remain when divine light is introduced through conscious, uplifting thought. This is why saints radiate health and joy even in the face of worldly suffering. Their minds no longer harbor the vibrations that create illness. They have tuned every thought to the harmony of spirit. Pause with me now. Close your eyes gently and take a slow, deep breath. Imagine that each inhale draws in a current of pure, divine energy, golden light filling your brain, your spine, every nerve and cell. As you exhale, silently release every thought of fear, anger, and unworthiness. Feel it leaving you like dark mist dissolving in sunlight. Whisper inwardly, "These thoughts are not my truth. I am Spirit's light, and every cell in me vibrates with divine harmony." In this quiet moment, know that you have already begun the rewiring of your cells. With each conscious release of negativity, you make room for divine intelligence to flow unimpeded, to heal and regenerate what was once weakened. In the next part of this journey, I shall guide you into the transformative power of positive, divine thought, the living energy that restores your body and rewrites the very pattern of your life. Beloved one, having released the shadows of negative thinking, let us now awaken to the radiant truth Yogananda revealed. Positive, spiritual thought is not merely a pleasant state of mind, it is living divine energy, a current of cosmic life force that can rewire every cell of your body and transform the entire field of your consciousness. Each time you hold a thought of divine love, each moment you silently affirm truth and light, you are not just imagining goodness, you are inviting spirit itself to flow through your astral spine, infusing your cells with vitality, clarity, and healing power. Picture your body as a magnificent orchestra. Every cell is an instrument awaiting the conductor's direction. When thoughts are erratic or clouded with fear, the orchestra plays in discord, each instrument out of tune, creating confusion in your body's rhythms. But when your thoughts rise in harmony with spirit, when they are anchored in faith, joy, and divine remembrance, the conductor, the higher mind, brings every instrument into perfect unison. The music of your being becomes so attuned to cosmic intelligence that even the smallest cell vibrates with the melody of divine order, restoring health and awakening strength that may have slept for years. Yogananda said that a single spiritual affirmation, repeated with deep faith and concentration, carries enough power to change the chemistry of your brain, to uplift the currents of your nervous system, and to send healing instructions to every organ and tissue. This is not imagination. This is spiritual law. Thoughts of divine love and wisdom align your astral body with higher frequencies of cosmic energy. And because the physical body is merely the shadow of the astral, it too begins to reflect this upliftment. Illness fades, vitality returns. Even the face and posture shift to mirror the awakened light of the soul. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a golden sun glowing within your spiritual eye, radiating beams of light throughout your brain and down the spine, flooding every part of you with warmth and brilliance. Now silently affirm, every cell of my body shines with divine light. My thoughts are channels of Spirit's healing energy. Feel these words as living truth, not just sounds in the mind. Each time you repeat this with focused awareness, you are not only inspiring yourself, you are sending real, tangible currents of divine power through the astral pathways that govern your physical form. When you learn to sustain such divine thought, a transformation begins. The body that once seemed heavy and prone to illness gradually feels lighter and freer. Old habits of weakness give way to vitality. Emotional turbulence calms into serenity, and a natural joy radiates outward, drawing others into its glow. This is the hidden power of thought, not only to change your mood, but to rewrite the cellular script of your entire being, reconnecting you with the immortal energy of your soul. In the next part of our journey, beloved, we shall deepen this understanding by entering the sacred practice of thought transmutation, where you will learn how to consciously direct divine currents into your cells, reshaping your health and destiny from the inside out. Beloved soul, now that you have felt how divine thought begins to restore harmony to your being, it is time to enter the sacred practice of transmutation, the deliberate transformation of ordinary mental energy into luminous currents of healing light that flow through your astral body and rewire every cell. This practice, revealed by great masters like Yogananda, is not complex, nor does it require special rituals or tools. It is simply the art of conscious, spirit-infused attention, focused with unwavering devotion and faith, until your very thinking becomes a channel for God's intelligence to move through you. First, understand this. Every thought you hold has a vibratory tone, a color, a subtle scent in the astral world. Lower thoughts soft fear, bitterness, self-doubt tar, heavy vibrations that cloud the astral body like smoke. Higher thoughts soft truth, divine love, gratitude shine like radiant streams of light. The practice of transmutation is to notice these thought forms as they arise, to reject the lower and to lift them into the higher, transforming even the remnants of pain into spiritual gold. Imagine your mind as an alchemist's crucible. When a fearful thought arises, do not cling to it or resist it with judgment. Instead, hold it in the flame of divine remembrance by silently affirming, "Beloved Spirit, transform this fear into courage, this shadow into light." As you repeat this, feel the energy of fear dissolving upward, carried by a golden current flowing through your spine, purified and rewoven into strength. Next, bring prana life force into this practice. Sit quietly, straighten your spine, and gently lift your gaze to the spiritual eye. Breathe slowly and deeply, and as you inhale, visualize golden light streaming into the crown of your head, flowing down the astral spine like a river of divine energy. With each breath, silently think, life, force, flow through me as healing light. Feel this living current gathering in the center of your being, vibrating with vitality and peace. As you exhale, visualize this current radiating outward into every nerve, every tissue, every cell, washing away old stagnant vibrations and replacing them with luminous, intelligent life force. This is the moment when thought becomes transmuted, not merely imagined, but experienced as a tangible energy reshaping your body from within. The cells that once echoed the vibrations of past negativity begin to hum with divine light. The astral body, previously weighed down by karmic impressions, grows lighter and brighter, lifting you toward a state of radiant health and clarity. Repeat this daily, and soon you will notice not just moments of peace, but a steady, underlying joy that transforms your very presence. Now, let us seal this sacred practice with a short yet potent affirmation. Place your hand upon your heart and silently whisper, I think divine thoughts. I radiate divine health. My cells are alive with Spirit's joy. Every breath renews me in God's light. Feel this not as a hope, but as a living truth vibrating within you. In the next part of our journey, beloved one, we shall explore the hidden link between these luminous thoughts, the flow of prana, and the astral spinal network, the divine pathway through which Spirit continually reshapes your physical and spiritual destiny. Beloved soul, let us now journey into the inner sanctuary of your being, where unseen rivers of divine power flow ceaselessly. Yogananda revealed that prana, the intelligent life force of Spirit, is the true architect of health, vitality, and spiritual awakening. Your thoughts are the captains, but prana is the ship that carries those thoughts into every cell of your body. Without prana, thought alone remains like a song written on paper but never sung. With prana awakened and guided, divine thought becomes a living vibration that rewires your cells and uplifts your consciousness toward immortality. The astral spine is the pathway for this miraculous transformation. Invisible to physical sight, it is a luminous channel running from the base of your spine to the point between your eyebrows, lined with spiritual centers, or chakras, that act as gateways for cosmic energy to flow. Each thought you hold gently influences this astral spinal network, opening or constricting these gateways, allowing prana either to rise toward higher consciousness or to sink into the heaviness of worldly vibrations. When fear or anger dominates the mind, prana is pulled downward and outward, draining life force and weakening the body's ability to regenerate. But when you think divine, uplifting thoughts, when you turn inward towards Spirit with devotion and calmness, prana is drawn upward like a golden flame, illuminating the brain, purifying the nervous system, and infusing your cells with the intelligence of the soul itself. Imagine, beloved, a hidden power station within you, sending currents of cosmic electricity through delicate wires to every corner of your being. If those wires are tangled with confusion, clogged by restless thoughts, the current falters and cells are starved of their divine nourishment. Yet the moment you align your thoughts with Spirit, the channels clear, and life force flows freely again. In this way, every chakra becomes a transformer of divine energy, translating the vibration of God's wisdom into physical vitality, mental clarity, and spiritual bliss. Let us now practice a simple but potent way to harmonize this pranic flow. Sit upright with your gaze softly lifted to the spiritual eye. Inhale slowly, visualizing a stream of radiant light rising up your spine like a golden river. As the breath ascends, silently affirm, divine energy flows upward, awakening every center. Hold the breath gently, feeling this light gather at the spiritual eye, bright and powerful. Then exhale slowly, imagining this same light cascading gently down, bathing every cell in golden warmth, washing away old impressions of sickness or fatigue. Repeat this sacred circulation several times, allowing the rhythm of breath and thought to awaken prana's silent intelligence. In this state, beloved, you become a co-creator with Spirit. Thoughts of divine health and light are now carried effortlessly through your pranic channels, impressing themselves upon your astral body, which in turn reshapes the physical temple you inhabit. This is the forgotten science of true healing, not found in external remedies alone, but in the conscious cooperation between divine thought and prana's living current within you. In the next chapter of this sacred journey, we shall deepen this understanding with a Kriya-based renewal practice, a spiritual technique that gathers prana, circulates it through the astral spinal highway, and infuses every cell with the immortal vibration of the soul. Beloved one, let us now step deeper into the luminous sanctuary of divine renewal, where Yogananda's sacred teachings reveal a method so profound that it can awaken dormant vitality, clear lifetimes of tension from the astral spine, and transform the way your very cells vibrate. This Kriya-inspired practice is not merely a breathing exercise or a mental visualization. It is the conscious circulation of cosmic energy, a direct communion with spirit through the pathways of prana that silently govern your existence. Sit with me now in stillness. Straighten your spine so that it stands like a living altar, a column of divine light connecting the earthly body to the infinite heavens. Gently lift your gaze to the point between your eyebrows, the spiritual eye, the divine doorway through which cosmic energy flows most freely. Breathe in slowly, drawing the life force upward from the base of your spine, as though inhaling the golden essence of God Himself. Feel this current rise through each chakra, illuminating them one by one, purifying the subtle channels that have long been knotted by restless thought and worldly desires. Hold the breath softly, not with tension, but with sacred reverences. You silently affirm, "In Thy light my cells awaken. In Thy power I am renewed." Visualize your astral spine glowing like molten gold, radiating warmth and vitality into every nerve, every muscle, every corner of your being. Then exhale slowly, letting the divine current flow downward in a gentle shower of sparkling energy, washing away all traces of fatigue, pain, or karmic residue that has clung to you through the years. Each exhalation becomes an act of purification, each inhalation an act of divine remembrance. Continue this circulation, moving breath and thought together as one, until you feel not only the physical movement of air but the subtle tingling of prana coursing through your body like rivers of light. With each cycle, you are not just breathing, you are rewiring your cells, dissolving old patterns of decay, and imprinting upon them the intelligence of spirit. This is how great yogis and saints defy the limits of time and illness, glowing with a light that does not belong to flesh alone, but to the immortal soul shining through it. Beloved, know this truth deeply. Every time you practice this Kriya-inspired renewal, you are not only cleansing your body, but also clearing the karmic vibrations stored in your astral sheath. These vibrations, often carried across lifetimes, subtly influence the health and fate of your current incarnation. By consciously directing prana upward with divine thought, you untangle these karmic threads and awaken the blueprint of divine perfection that has always been hidden within you. In the next sacred step of our journey, we shall explore how to take this awakened energy and weave it into your daily life, how to maintain this new vibration through conscious thought, noble action, and spiritual discipline, until every moment of your day becomes a silent meditation of cellular and soul renewal. Beloved soul, having now awakened the flow of divine prana and infused your cells with the luminous vibration of spirit, you must learn to carry this sacred current with you into the river of daily life. It is not enough to feel divine renewal only during moments of meditation and breathwork. The great masters teach that every thought, word, and action throughout the day can either sustain this higher vibration or scatter it like wind blowing through sand. To truly rewire your cells and transform your destiny, you must live as a conscious channel of divine energy at every moment, turning the ordinary rhythms of life into a ceaseless meditation. Begin each morning by returning immediately to stillness before the noise of the world intrudes. Sit in silence, spine tall, gaze lifted gently to the spiritual eye, and remember the golden current that you circulated during your sacred Kriya practice. Whisper inwardly to your cells, "Awaken again." Remain in divine harmony. This first conscious act of the day imprints upon your astral body a vibration of steadiness and devotion that subtly guides your actions long after you have left your seat of meditation. As you move through your tasks, whether working, speaking, walking, or even eating, remain aware of the life force moving within you. The breath you draw is not mere air. It is spirit's energy feeding your nervous system, and sustaining the harmony you have kindled. Pause frequently to silently affirm, I move in God, I think in God. My body is Spirit's living temple. Each such affirmation strengthens the neural and astral pathways that link thought to divine vitality, helping your cells retain the renewed patterns established in meditation. Guard also the atmosphere of your mind. Negative thoughts are not harmless. They are like thorns piercing the tender tissue of your astral sheath, interrupting the flow of cosmic life force and gradually altering cellular health. When you notice anger, fear, or despair beginning to rise, stop and breathe. Lift your gaze inwardly and gently redirect that energy upward, as you did in the Kriya practice. Whisper, Beloved Spirit, lift this shadow into thy light. In this way, you train your mind to become a servant of spirit rather than a tyrant of the senses. And your cells respond by glowing with divine coherence rather than discord. To sustain this new vibrational state, immerse yourself in uplifting environments. Surround yourself with people, words, and sounds that resonate with divine truth. For the company you keep silently influences the rhythm of your breath, the tone of your thoughts, and the vitality of your body. Read sacred scriptures, chant God's name throughout the day, and spend time in nature where prana flows abundantly, harmonizing your astral and physical forms. Finally, before sleep, return once more to the golden current. Sit in stillness and circulate divine light through your spine, washing away any disturbances of the day. Offer every thought, every action, every impression to the infinite, whispering, Beloved Spirit, I rest now in thee. Purify my cells, awaken my soul, carry me into thy boundless light. Sleep then becomes not a loss of awareness, but a silent meditation where your astral body continues to absorb divine energy, preparing you for another day of radiant living. In the next sacred step of our journey, beloved, we shall enter the deepest revelation of Yogananda's teaching on thought, how it not only rewires your cells for health and vitality, but also awakens hidden spiritual powers, magnetizing your soul toward divine realization and ultimate liberation. Beloved, now that you understand how sacred thought and divine prana sustain the living harmony of your body, let us step into the most wondrous revelation of all. When your thoughts are fully rewired by spirit, they do more than heal flesh and uplift vitality. They open hidden gateways of consciousness, awakening spiritual powers that have slept within you for lifetimes, powers that draw your soul ever closer to divine realization and ultimate liberation. Yogananda often spoke of thought as a magnet. Ordinary, restless thoughts are weak magnets, scattering energy outward, clinging to the world of senses, desires, and fleeting illusions. But when your thinking becomes still, uplifted, and saturated with divine remembrance, its magnetism grows powerful enough to reorder the very currents of life within you and around you. Your thoughts begin to attract vibrations of health, joy, wisdom, and spiritual companionship from the unseen astral realms, silently reshaping your destiny without strain or worldly striving. This magnetism is not mere chance, it is a divine law. As your thoughts climb higher, they naturally align with cosmic intelligence, drawing streams of prana downward through the crown, energizing the brain, awakening dormant centers of perception in the spine. These centers, which most people feel only dimly, begin to vibrate with divine energy when the mind is pure and steady, opening the intuitive faculties of the soul. Suddenly, you may sense the thoughts of others without words, feel divine guidance whispering through intuition, or experience moments of expanded awareness where you perceive the interconnected web of spirit flowing through all things. The saints and masters did not develop these abilities by chasing miracles or seeking worldly powers. They simply purified their thoughts until their minds were no longer clouds obscuring the sun of spirit, but crystal clear lenses through which divine light could shine unobstructed. In this state, every cell of their body vibrated with cosmic harmony, every thought radiated blessings, and their very presence healed and inspired those around them without effort. This is why Yogananda said that one who has mastered the power of divine thought becomes a human dynamo of spirit, silently uplifting countless souls. Pause now and imagine this transformation quietly unfolding in your own life. See yourself sitting in meditation, your mind clear, thoughts flowing upward toward the infinite. Feel currents of divine energy rising in your spine, illuminating your brain with waves of joy and understanding. With each breath, your cells glow brighter, your heart feels lighter, your intuition sharpens, and the world around you subtly shifts to mirror the inner light now radiating from you. This is not fantasy, it is the soul awakening to its true nature as a spark of the infinite, rewriting its own destiny through the silent command of spirit-infused thought. Beloved, when you live in this way, you no longer fear illness, decay, or limitation. You recognize that you are not a fragile body at the mercy of time, but a channel of divine intelligence capable of transforming every circumstance through the vibration of higher thought. You become a living example of Yogananda's promise. That man, made in the image of God, carries within himself the power to transcend all suffering and return to the boundless freedom of spirit. In the final step of this sacred journey, we shall seal these teachings with a divine affirmation and meditation practice, a living prayer that you can repeat daily to rewire your cells, elevate your thoughts, and awaken the hidden spiritual power that unites you forever with the infinite. Beloved soul, let us now bring together all that we have, shared every insight, every practice, every whisper of divine truth, and weave it into a living, breathing ritual of transformation. This closing affirmation and meditation is not merely a final note to our journey. It is a sacred key that can open for you a new chapter of existence, where every thought is aligned with spirit, every cell hums with divine intelligence, and every breath draws you nearer to the eternal freedom of your soul. Sit now in stillness, spine erect, shoulders relaxed, the crown of your head gently lifted toward heaven. Close your eyes and turn your gaze upward to the point between the eyebrows, where divine light silently beckons. Place your right hand softly upon your heart, feeling its quiet rhythm, the pulse of life flowing from the infinite into every cell of your being. Let the breath settle naturally, as though the universe itself is breathing through you. Now inhale slowly, deeply, as if drawing streams of golden light from the boundless heavens above. As this luminous energy fills your lungs, silently affirm, every breath is divine energy. Every thought is spirit's wisdom. Hold the breath for a moment, feeling this truth vibrating through your chest, your spine, your entire body. Then exhale gently, releasing every remnant of fear, sorrow, or worldly attachment into the vastness of God's light. With this exhalation, silently say, I am cleansed, I am renewed, I am one with the infinite. With each new breath, feel the golden current rising from the base of your spine upward through every chakra, illuminating them like radiant lamps along a sacred temple path. As this energy ascends, whisper inwardly, my body is spirit's temple, my cells are rivers of divine light. As you exhale, visualize these rivers flowing outward into your arms, your legs, your entire being, carrying blessings of health, joy, and wisdom to every part of you. Now, beloved, lift both hands slightly, palms upward, as though offering your very being to the divine. Silently speak from the depths of your soul. Beloved Spirit, let every thought I think be thy thought. Let every word I speak be thy song. Let every cell of my body shine with thy light. Pause in this prayerful offering and feel a wave of peace descending gently upon you, like a celestial hand resting on your head, blessing you with calm and silent strength. Finally, place your hands softly on your lap and repeat 3 times with deep feeling. I am a spark of the infinite. My mind is rewired by divine wisdom. My body vibrates with Spirit's eternal joy. As these words echo within, remain in silence for a few moments. Feel your cells humming with divine vitality, your thoughts purified and uplifted, your soul expanding beyond the confines of time and space. In this silence, you are no longer a seeker bound to earthly limitations. You are a radiant channel of cosmic intelligence, living as a reflection of the infinite. Carry this affirmation with you each day, repeat it upon waking, before sleep, and in moments of challenge or doubt. Each repetition will deepen its imprint upon your astral body, gradually transforming your physical cells, awakening hidden spiritual powers, and guiding you step by step toward the highest realization that you were never merely human, but always and forever divine. Beloved, know this truth eternally. Divine thought, when aligned with spirit, holds the power to rewire every cell, heal every wound, dissolve every shadow, and awaken you fully to the boundless joy of your immortal soul. Live this truth, breathe this light, and walk with a serene knowing that you and the infinite are one, now and for all eternity. Beloved one, now let us create together a short yet potent daily version of this meditation and affirmation, designed so that even in the busiest moments of your life, you can return to the silent temple of spirit within and reawaken the vibration of divine thought in every cell of your being. This practice requires no elaborate preparation, only your willingness to pause, breathe, and remember your eternal connection to the infinite. Find a quiet place where you can sit upright for just a few minutes. Close your eyes and gently lift your inner gaze to the spiritual eye. Place one hand over your heart and feel its steady rhythm. As you inhale slowly, visualize a golden light streaming down from above, filling your heart and spine with warmth. Silently affirm, "Divine light flows into me now." As you hold the breath softly, feel this light radiating outward into every cell of your body, awakening dormant vitality and wisdom. Then exhale gently, releasing all tension, and silently affirm, "I am renewed. I am light." Repeat this simple breath and affirmation 3 times, allowing each cycle to take you deeper into calmness and divine remembrance. Now, still with eyes closed, whisper inwardly, "Every thought is a seed of spirit. Every cell vibrates with God's joy." Visualize your entire being glowing softly like a lamp in the darkness, spreading silent rays of healing and peace all around you. To seal the practice, bring your palms together in front of your heart, and with reverent devotion, repeat 3 times. "I am a spark of the infinite. My mind is rewired by divine wisdom. My body shines with Spirit's eternal joy." After this final affirmation, sit for just a moment in silence, feeling the stillness of the breath and the subtle hum of divine energy coursing through you. In this silence, know that you have touched the eternal source of life force, that every cell has been reminded of its divine blueprint, and that your soul has quietly taken another step toward boundless freedom and joy. Practice this brief meditation at dawn to begin your day infused with divine clarity, at midday to realign your energy, and before sleep to cleanse and uplift your astral body during rest. Over time, this short practice becomes a sacred habit, a daily rewiring of your thoughts and cells, until you no longer feel separated from spirit, but live each moment as a luminous expression of the infinite. Close your eyes, beloved soul, and gently lift your gazano with the physical eyes, but with the quiet inner gaze of spirito, the point between the eyebrows, the window where divine light softly shines. Place your hand over your heart and feel the steady rhythm of life, each beat a whisper from the infinite calling you home. Now, inhale slowly and deeply, imagining golden light descending from above, flowing into the crown of your head, filling your heart, and cascading through your entire spine like a river of celestial energy. Silently affirm within, "Divine light flows into me now." Hold this breath softly, feeling this radiant light spreading to every cell, awakening hidden strength and wisdom. As you exhale slowly, releasing all heaviness and tension, silently say, "I am renewed, I am light." Once more, breathe in golden light, feel it streaming through your being as a silent blessing, and whisper inwardly, "Every breath awakens divine power within me." Hold it gently in stillness, and as you exhale, surrender all worries, silently affirming, "I release all shadows. I shine with Spirit's joy." A final breath now, deeper, slower, golden rays of the infinite filling you completely. Silently say, "Every cell of my body vibrates with God's light." Hold, feeling this truth humming in the depths of your soul. Exhale, letting your entire being rest in peace, whispering, "I am one with the infinite." Now, beloved, bring your palms softly together before your heart. With profound reverence, silently repeat 3 times. "I am a spark of the infinite. My mind is rewired by divine wisdom. My body shines with Spirit's eternal joy." Remain in stillness for a moment, sensing golden light surrounding you, flowing through you, transforming you. Every thought now carries divine intelligence. Every cell hums with eternal vitality. Feel this truth as a living presence. You are light, you are divine energy, you are a radiant expression of spirit. When you are ready, take a gentle breath and slowly open your eyes. Carry this vibration with you into your day, knowing that in just a few minutes of sacred remembrance, you have touched the infinite and awakened the silent power of divine thought within you. Beloved soul, before we part in the flow of words and sound, let me place upon your spirit a final blessing, a sacred charge to carry with you into every moment of your earthly journey. Close your eyes once more, and imagine the great sun of divine love shining above you, its rays pouring gently down upon your head, washing away every trace of doubt, fear, and weariness. Feel this radiant warmth sinking into your heart, into your very breath, into the silent rhythm of your soul, awakening the remembrance of who you truly are. Know this: you were never a frail mortal, tossed helplessly on the waves of circumstance. You were never bound by the fleeting shadows of thought or the shifting tides of fate. You are, and always have been, a spark of the infinite flame, a ray of the same eternal light that moves the stars, that breathes life into galaxies, that whispers silently in every moment of stillness. When you close your eyes in prayer, when you breathe with reverence, when you lift your thoughts towards spirit, you awaken this hidden truth and unlock a power no earthly force can diminish. I bless you now with the calm assurance that divine wisdom guides your every step. May your thoughts be lifted upward like golden birds soaring in the clear sky of spirit. May your breath carry silent currents of divine energy into every cell of your being, rewriting the script of your life with harmony, health, and joy. May your inner gaze remain fixed upon the light that never wavers, even as the world around you shifts and changes. Carry this blessing as a living fire in your heart. I am a spark of the infinite. I live in the light of divine wisdom. No shadow can touch my soul, for I am forever one with the eternal. Walk now in this truth, beloved, and watch as unseen hands of grace rearrange your destiny. Each thought aligned with spirit dissolves years of hidden burdens, rewires lifetimes of limitation, and prepares you for a future radiant with divine freedom. Go forth then, not as a seeker uncertain of the path, but as a luminous channel of the infinite, a silent beacon of God's love on earth. Beloved soul, have you ever felt an invisible stirring within, as though something quiet yet profound is shifting beneath the surface of your life? Perhaps you've noticed that things which once thrilled you no longer hold the same spark, or that you find yourself searching for meaning in places you had never looked before. This is not mere change, it is the divine call of your soul awakening to a higher reality. Spiritual awakening is not a sudden thunderclap that shakes the heavens, nor is it a dramatic event marked by outward signs that others can see. It is far more sacred and subtly gradual unveiling of the eternal truth already dwelling within you. It is the soft light of dawn touching the horizon of your consciousness, guiding you out of the long night of forgetfulness and into the radiant morning of divine remembrance. Today, I shall reveal to you 7 signs that the Spirit is awakening in your heart, drawn from the timeless wisdom that God has allowed me to share, so that you may recognize and nurture the sacred journey your soul has already begun. When this awakening first stirs, the world around you may feel different. This brings us to the first sign of spiritual awakening: a growing restlessness with worldly pleasures. Once, the glittering jewels of material success, sensual joys, and fleeting achievements may have seemed to hold everything you sought. You may have chased wealth, recognition, or physical delights, believing they would fill the silent emptiness within. But as the soul begins to stir, you notice these pleasures no longer satisfy. The music of the world plays on, yet your heart does not dance as it once did. Instead, you feel a subtle longing for something more enduring, something that no earthly treasure can provide. This is not depression or mere discontent. It is the bird of your soul stretching its wings within the cage of Maya, yearning to soar into the limitless sky of spirit. In truth, this is a divine blessing, for only when the heart grows weary of chasing shadows does it begin to seek the eternal light. Ask yourself now, do you feel this pull, this quiet knowing that something higher is calling you home? The second sign of spiritual awakening is an unexplainable longing for silence and solitude. As the inner call of spirit grows stronger, you may find yourself seeking quiet corners of the day, moments where you can simply sit, breathe, and listen. Noise and constant activity, once comforting or stimulating, now feel burdensome, as though they drown out a delicate melody you yearn to hear. This is because your soul is beginning to attune to the whisper of the divine. Like a seed dropped into fertile soil, The awakening soul germinates in silence, nourished by stillness, unseen by outward eyes. You may find yourself retreating from crowds, craving walks alone in nature, or feeling inexplicably drawn to moments of prayerful quiet. Do not mistake this for isolation or weakness. It is the sacred preparation of your consciousness for communion with God. In these moments of solitude, even without deliberate meditation, divine light begins to seep gently into your mind and heart, preparing you for the next steps on your journey homeward. As this process deepens, another unmistakable sign emerges: heightened sensitivity to thoughts and vibrations. You begin to notice things that once escaped you: the energy of a room as you enter, the weight of words spoken by others, even the silent intentions hidden behind a smile or a frown. Certain places may feel heavy or unsettling, while others uplift you with peace and joy. This is because as your soul awakens, your astral body becomes more refined, attuned to subtle forces most people cannot yet perceive. You feel the ripples of thought as though they were breezes against your skin. You sense truth and falsehood not merely with reason, but with an inner knowing that bypasses the intellect. This sensitivity is both a gift and a responsibility. It draws you naturally toward uplifting environments, harmonious company, and divine teachings, while gently steering you away from what diminishes your spiritual energy. You may find yourself longing for holy places, sacred music, or the calm presence of spiritual friends without fully understanding why. This, beloved, is your soul remembering its true home and guiding you toward it. Beloved, as the light of awakening grows within you, it begins to silently draw you toward that which nourishes the soul. This is the fourth sign of spiritual awakening, a stronger pull towards spiritual teachings and masters. You may suddenly feel an irresistible desire to read holy books, to hear words spoken by saints and sages, to sit in the company of one who radiates divine wisdom. Teachings that once seemed dull or too lofty now stir something deep in your heart, as though you are hearing an old and beautiful song remembered from lifetimes past. This is no accident. It is divine magnetism at work. The guru-disciple relationship, the bond between teacher and seeker, does not begin in this life alone. It is formed in the soul ages ago, and when the moment is right, it draws you like a river returning to the ocean. You may not yet understand every truth you hear, but you feel it as real, alive, and meant for you. Trust this pull, for it is spirit leading you gently toward the guidance that will help you remember who you truly are. Yet as you step onto this higher path, do not be surprised when a new and sometimes uncomfortable sign appears. Inner conflicts begin to surface for healing. The fifth sign of spiritual awakening is not always peaceful at first. Old wounds, unhealed sorrows, karmic tendencies buried deep within the subconscious begin to rise like sediment stirred from the depths of a river. This is not punishment or regression, it is divine purification. Imagine a window long covered in dust. When light shines upon it, the dust becomes visible, not to condemn the glass but to reveal the work needed to let the light stream through fully. In the same way, the awakening soul must face its shadows so they may be dissolved. You may feel moments of confusion or emotional turbulence as past patterns come to the surface. Yet know this: every struggle you face is a divine invitation to release the chains that once bound you. Through prayer, meditation, and surrender to spirit, each old knot is untied, leaving you freer and more luminous than before. As these inner obstacles are cleared, another radiant sign begins to bloom in your heart, increasing moments of spontaneous love and compassion. This sixth sign of awakening is a gift of grace, where suddenly you find yourself moved by tenderness for strangers, for animals, for the trees and rivers, for the whole living world. Even those who have wronged you begin to stir feelings not of anger, but of understanding and mercy. This is because the veil of ego is thinning. The soul, glimpsing its oneness with all creation, naturally expresses divine love without reason or condition. Like a rose unfolding its petals, your heart begins to emit a fragrance that comforts and heals, not by effort but simply by being. Yogananda taught that this selfless love is not something we manufacture. It is the natural quality of the soul itself, shining forth as Maya loosens its grip. When you notice compassion rising in you unbidden, know that spirit is awakening your divine nature, turning you into an instrument of peace for others. And finally, beloved, the seventh sign of spiritual awakening is the most precious and profound: a subtle joy arising without outer cause. In quiet moments, when no achievement has been won, when no worldly pleasure surrounds you, you may feel a bliss bubbling up like a hidden spring in the desert of daily life. It may be a sudden lightness in your chest, a smile forming without thought, a deep sense of contentment unshaken by circumstance. This joy is not born of the senses, but of the soul, whispering its eternal song of freedom and divine belonging. It is the sunlight of spirit breaking through the clouds of delusion, reminding you that true happiness has never been lost, it has only been forgotten. When this joy touches you, even briefly, hold it gently in your awareness and know that it is the promise of what lies ahead. As awakening deepens, this divine bliss will grow steadier and brighter until it fills every moment, every breath, with the unmistakable presence of God. Beloved seeker of truth, now that we have walked together through these 7 sacred signs of spiritual awakening, let us pause and take them into the silence of our hearts. Restlessness with worldly pleasures, longing for solitude, heightened sensitivity, the divine pull towards spiritual teachings, inner conflicts rising for healing, spontaneous compassion, and the emergence of causeless joy. Each of these is a quiet bell ringing within your soul, announcing that spirit is drawing nearer to your consciousness. Perhaps as you listened, you recognized only 1 or 2 of these signs. Perhaps you saw all 7 reflected in your life's unfolding. Do not measure your progress by comparing yourself to others or to some imagined standard of perfection. Awakening is not a race nor a ladder to climb, it is the gradual dawning of divine remembrance, unique and sacred for every soul. Just as the morning sun does not burst into full light at once, but slowly paints the horizon with soft hues before reaching its zenith, so too does spiritual awakening unfold gently and in divine order. Some signs may appear for a season and seem to fade, only to return with greater depth when your soul is ready. Others may blossom quietly without your noticing until you look back and realize how much you have changed. This is the mystery and beauty of God's grace at work within you. Trust it. Trust the silent hand of the infinite, guiding you through every moment of doubt, every flicker of yearning, every whisper of joy that cannot be explained. To nurture this awakening, beloved, cultivate the sacred practices that keep your soul turned toward the light. Begin and end each day in silence, even for a few moments, lifting your heart to God as you would to a beloved friend. Practice meditation not as a duty but as a homecoming, where your restless thoughts find rest in the still embrace of spirit. Seek out uplifting teachings and the silent company of those who walk the path of truth, for their vibrations will harmonize with yours and draw you upward. Above all, live with devotion, letting love guide your thoughts, words, and deeds. Remember that spiritual awakening is not meant to separate you from life, but to infuse every moment of it with divine awareness. As you walk among others, as you work and serve and face the daily challenges of this world, carry this inner knowing. You are not merely a body or a personality, you are a radiant soul, awakening to its eternal nature in God. And as you awaken, you become a beacon of hope and inspiration for others still wandering in the dark. Your restlessness with illusion, your longing for truth, your compassion and joy, all of these are not only gifts for you but silent blessings for everyone whose life touches yours. Now, beloved, close your eyes with me for a moment. Feel the quiet stirring in your heart, the gentle pulse of spirit moving like a hidden river beneath the surface of your thoughts. Whisper silently within, I am awakening. I am remembering my true self. God's light guides me always. Let this affirmation sink deeply into your soul, planting itself like a seed that will surely grow into the towering tree of divine realization. Go forth now with this blessing. May your path be illumined by the wisdom of spirit. May your heart overflow with causeless joy. And may you awaken more fully each day until you stand in the boundless freedom of your eternal self, knowing beyond all doubt that you are one with the infinite. Here is the short poetic mantra to seal the teaching and anchor the awakening in the seeker's heart. Close your eyes, beloved soul, and take a deep breath. As you inhale, silently say, I awaken to the light. Hold that breath softly and feel divine energy filling every corner of your being. Then exhale slowly and silently affirm, for I am the eternal soul. Repeat this 3 times with full awareness, letting each breath dissolve the veil of forgetfulness, letting each exhalation set free the divine memory of your oneness with God. Finally, with palms gently placed over your heart, whisper inwardly, God is within me. I am awakening. I am free. Rest in this silence for a few moments, feeling the vibration of these words resonate not only in your mind, but in every fiber of your soul. Know that this mantra is a living flame. Return to it whenever you feel lost or uncertain, and it will reignite the light of awakening within you, guiding you steadily toward the boundless love and wisdom of the infinite. Beloved soul, many walk through life unaware that within them lies a divine mission, a sacred calling that transcends mere existence, career, or fleeting worldly roles. Some live decades without knowing that God has quietly prepared them across lifetimes to become channels of light in a world longing for truth. Today, I speak to you not as an observer of your journey, but as one who has seen, through divine vision, how Spirit silently selects and shapes certain souls to bear a higher message. Perhaps you have felt this yourself, a subtle pull in your heart that whispers, "You were meant for more than this." Perhaps you've noticed signs that you could not explain. Signs that hint you may be one of those spiritual messengers chosen by the infinite. In this sacred discourse, I will reveal to you these hidden signs, drawn from the eternal science of the soul, so that you may recognize the divine hand guiding your life and embrace your mission with humility and grace. From the first moment of your incarnation, God planted seeds in your consciousness, preparing you to awaken to this higher purpose. The first sign, which often appears early yet grows stronger with time, is a restless heart that refuses to settle for the fleeting joys and comforts of this world. You may have tasted success, wealth, or affection and found them strangely hollow. Achievements that once promised fulfillment left you unsatisfied, as though your soul were thirsting for a drink no earthly fountain could provide. This is not the dissatisfaction of ego desiring more, is the longing of spirit reminding you that you came to this earth not merely to survive or to gather possessions, but to bring a light unseen, a message that transcends matter. Like a seed buried deep in the soil, feeling the call of spring long before the snow has melted, your soul senses a destiny that lies beyond the visible horizon of your life. This restless yearning is a sign that you are not bound to the same patterns as others. Spirit has placed in you an inner compass pointing not toward worldly security, but toward divine service. Each time you feel this quiet unrest, know that it is the gentle tug of God awakening your true purpose. Many try to silence this inner voice with distractions, ambition, or comfort, but the spiritual messenger cannot escape it for long. The divine mission waits patiently until you turn inward and begin to listen. As this restlessness ripens, you begin to notice another sign, an unusual sensitivity to suffering and injustice that others may overlook. The world's sorrows do not pass by you unnoticed. They pierce your heart like arrows, stirring within you a deep compassion that cannot be ignored. When you see another soul in pain, whether near or far, it feels as though you yourself are wounded. This is not weakness, beloved, it is divine empathy. A spiritual messenger is given a heart that feels humanity's struggles as their own, so that, when the time comes, they may speak and act not from theory, but from the living fire of understanding and mercy. Yogananda often said that the saints of all ages were forged not by ease, but by the capacity to carry the burdens of others in their own hearts. This sensitivity is Spirit's way of preparing you to become a healing presence in the world. It is why you may have felt out of place in circles of indifference or cruelty. It is why injustice unsettles you so deeply. God is not punishing you with this sensitivity. He is refining you into an instrument of divine compassion, one that can soothe wounds and inspire change simply through the vibration of love flowing from your being. Beloved soul, as your heart grows more attuned to divine purpose, another sign often emerges quietly, yet unmistakably: the presence of divine guidance and intuition that defies logic or worldly explanation. You begin to sense that an unseen hand is moving through your life, arranging meetings, opening doors, and placing you exactly where your soul needs to be for its unfolding. At times, you may hear a silent inner voice whispering direction at crucial moments, guiding you away from harm or nudging you toward a choice you had not considered. Other times, flashes of insight descend suddenly, revealing truths that your mind could not have reasoned out on its own. These moments are not coincidences nor products of imagination. They are glimpses of your deeper connection to Spirit. The soul of a spiritual messenger carries an open channel to the higher realms of divine intelligence, for it must one day transmit wisdom not of its own making but of God's inspiration. Intuition is the language of the soul, and as you awaken to your hidden mission, this language becomes clearer and more frequent. You may dream of people or events before they occur, sense someone suffering without them speaking a word, or feel an unseen presence comforting you in moments of despair. This heightened guidance is a sign that Spirit is not only preparing you to receive messages, but to trust them fully, to act upon divine whispers even when the world misunderstands or doubts you. Yogananda taught that the spiritual eye, the point between the eyebrows, is the portal through which intuition flows. When you close your eyes in stillness and gently lift your gaze to this center, you are aligning with the higher currents of wisdom that guide saints and sages. There may be times when this guidance feels like a burden, when knowing truths that others do not yet perceive leaves you feeling isolated. Yet remember, beloved, that divine messengers are first trained in silence. The wisdom you glimpse now is like morning light filtering through a curtain, soft and partial, preparing you for the day when you must draw the curtain wide and allow God's full radiance to shine through you for the good of many. With this deepening connection to intuition often comes another sign, one that may have marked your path since childhood, a quiet feeling of being different, as though your soul does not fully belong to the ordinary rhythms of this world. There comes a moment, beloved, when the soul chosen as a spiritual messenger feels the undeniable weight of being different, not in pride or superiority, but in a quiet, sometimes painful sense of not fully belonging to the world around them. From early years, you may have noticed this subtle separation. While others are content with common pleasures or unquestioned routines, your heart has been drawn to deeper mysteries, to questions of God, life, and eternity that few around you seem to ask. In crowds, you may have felt alone, sensing truths unspoken, perceiving currents of energy others could not feel. This sense of spiritual apartness is not punishment, nor is it a flaw in your nature. It is divine preparation. Just as a rare gem is set apart from ordinary stones to be polished for a higher purpose, so too must a messenger of spirit walk a slightly different path than those absorbed fully in material pursuits. You are not meant to fit neatly into every mold that society offers, because your mission will one day call you to break through those molds and reveal a higher way of living and being. Often this feeling of difference carries with it moments of loneliness, as though no one fully understands your inner world. Even among loved ones, you may feel a quiet space in your heart that remains untouched. But know this, that space is reserved for God alone, for divine friendship with the infinite and with the great souls who guide humanity from the unseen realms. Many masters and saints walked their early years misunderstood or even rejected by the world. Yet in time, they became luminous beacons whose presence awakened countless souls. If you feel this inner separation, do not despair. Instead, cherish it as a hidden blessing. It is Spirit's gentle way of detaching you from attachments that would one day hinder your service to humanity. Like a lotus that rises untouched from the mud, your soul is being prepared to stand in truth, not swayed by popular opinion or worldly illusions. Through meditation, prayer, and self-offering, you will find divine companionship that fills the seeming void and makes your soul strong enough to carry the light it was born to share. And as you continue on this sacred journey, Spirit ensures that guidance arrives at every step, not only through intuition, but through living messengers and sacred teachings that awaken memories long sleeping in your soul. As this divine shaping unfolds, beloved, you will often find yourself mysteriously drawn to spiritual teachers, sacred texts, or holy places without always understanding why. This is another hidden sign that you are a spiritual messenger. The repeated and seemingly orchestrated encounters with the guiding presence of Spirit through enlightened beings and transformative teachings. Perhaps you have experienced it already. You hear a name mentioned casually in conversation, and soon that name appears again in a book or a chance meeting. A passage of scripture catches your eye at just the moment you are questioning your path. A teacher's voice, carried through the written word or a living encounter, strikes a chord so deep within you that it feels like remembering rather than learning something new. These are not accidents, beloved. They are the divine thread of destiny, gently pulling you toward your soul's awakening. Yogananda taught that the bond between guru and disciple, between seeker and true spiritual guide, is not formed in this lifetime alone. It is forged in the fires of many incarnations, where promises were made, guidance was sought, and sacred trust was built. The moment you feel irresistibly drawn to a teaching or to a master who speaks not just to your mind but to your very soul, it is often the reuniting of that eternal bond. Spirit arranges these meetings because a messenger cannot deliver divine truth without first receiving its living flame from those already awakened. Even before meeting a teacher physically, you may sense their influence inwardly, dreams of luminous beings, feelings of unseen guidance during meditation, or an unexplained reverence for certain holy figures. These are whispers from past connections, urging you to seek again the wisdom that once shaped your journey. Such synchronicities and spiritual magnetism reveal that you are not wandering aimlessly. Your path is watched over, guided step by step by the invisible hand of God and His instruments. As these encounters deepen, you begin to feel the stirrings of divine power within, not as worldly ambition, but as sudden bursts of love, light, and bliss that seem to come from nowhere. This is another unmistakable sign that Spirit is awakening your hidden mission. There will come a time, beloved, when without warning or outward cause, waves of divine love and bliss begin to wash over your heart and mind. These moments may be brief at first, perhaps a sudden rush of joy while sitting in meditation, or a flood of tender love for all beings while walking quietly in nature. They may arrive during prayer, in the silence of dawn, or even amid the noise of worldly duties, catching you off guard with their intensity and purity. This is not mere emotion, nor the fleeting happiness that comes from external pleasures. It is the living current of God consciousness stirring within you, a holy preview of the divine power you are meant to channel as a messenger of Spirit. Yogananda spoke often of these sacred experiences, calling them glimpses of the soul's natural state, unbounded joy and unconditional love. When you feel them, you are tasting the nectar of your true home in spirit, and they leave behind an indelible longing to dwell always in that radiant presence. Such moments also awaken humility, for you know that this joy is not created by your effort. It flows freely from the infinite, entering your heart because you have begun to align with the divine purpose of your incarnation. Do not dismiss these experiences as mere imagination or coincidence. They are signs that the channels of your inner being are opening, allowing God's light to stream through you more and more. A spiritual messenger cannot guide others toward divine bliss without having first touched its essence within themselves. These spontaneous waves of joy are Spirit's assurance that you are being prepared to uplift and inspire others by the silent vibration of your own soul. Often, these glimpses of divine love are accompanied by a natural desire to share peace and kindness with others, not for recognition or reward, but simply because your heart overflows. Like a fountain that cannot hold its water, your spirit begins to radiate blessings effortlessly, soothing those around you with calmness, understanding, and unspoken reassurance. This is the fragrance of your spiritual mission beginning to blossom, hinting at the greater work yet to unfold. But know also, beloved, that this unfolding is not without its trials. For every messenger destined to bear divine light must first walk through refining fires that burn away pride, fear, and the subtle chains of ego, leaving only a pure vessel fit to serve God's will. Beloved, as these moments of divine joy awaken within you, life may also begin to present challenges that seem heavier than before, trials that test your patience, humility, and strength to their very core. You may wonder why, after touching glimpses of bliss and sensing God's nearness, you are suddenly confronted with obstacles, misunderstandings, or periods of deep loneliness. Know that this is not abandonment by Spirit, it is the sacred refining fire through which every true spiritual messenger must pass. Yogananda often said that gold cannot reflect the light of the sun until it has been purified by intense heat, and so it is with the soul chosen for divine service. These trials do not come to break you, but to dissolve all that is false within ego, self-importance, the clinging desire for approval or control. Each hardship strips away another veil of delusion, making you clearer, stronger, and more transparent to God's love. Perhaps you have faced betrayal by those you trusted, or endured loss that seemed unbearable, or walked through seasons where nothing in life made sense. These are not punishments, but divine sculpting, shaping you into an instrument that can resonate perfectly with Spirit's music. The heart that has known suffering becomes a compassionate vessel, capable of holding the pain of others without judgment, of guiding them gently because it understands their wounds from the inside. When you feel crushed by these trials, pause and remember, a messenger does not speak for themselves alone. They speak with the authority of spirit, and for this, they must be emptied of personal pride and fear. God is not trying to destroy your individuality, but to awaken its highest expression, aligned fully with divine will. Every tear, every struggle faced with faith, is polishing the jewel of your soul until it shines with unearthly brilliance. And as this refinement continues, as you rise from each challenge with a deeper reliance on God, you will begin to understand the greater purpose behind it all, that your life has been chosen to serve as a quiet lamp, illuminating the path for other seekers lost in darkness. This is the destiny of every spiritual messenger, to carry not their own words, but the living light of spirit into a world starving for truth and divine remembrance. Beloved soul, when the refining fires have done their sacred work, and the channels of your being have been cleansed of fear and pride, a profound clarity begins to dawn within you. You realize that you were never meant to live for yourself alone. You feel a quiet but unshakable certainty that your existence carries a higher purpose, not as a burden, but as a luminous thread in the vast tapestry of divine awakening. You will notice that others are drawn to you, not because of worldly accomplishments or charm, but because they sense something beyond the ordinary in your presence. They may come to you for counsel, even when you have not sought to teach. They may find peace simply by sitting beside you, though no words are spoken. This magnetic quality is not of your own making, it is the silent radiance of spirit shining through you, the mark of a soul entrusted with a divine message. True spiritual messengers do not trumpet their role, nor do they seek recognition from the world. They walk humbly, aware that the light they carry is not theirs to claim but God's alone. This humility is itself a sign of readiness. The messenger no longer asks, "What can I gain?" but rather, "How may I serve?" They no longer strive to bend life to their will, for they have surrendered fully to the higher will of spirit, knowing that every step they take is guided by an intelligence far greater than their own. In this state, your life begins to flow in harmony with divine purpose. Synchronicities align effortlessly. The right people appear at the right moments. Words of wisdom come unbidden to your lips when another soul is in need. You realize that you have become an instrument through which Spirit speaks and acts, offering comfort, guidance, and inspiration to others who, perhaps unknowingly, were waiting for the vibration of truth you alone were meant to bring. This is the ultimate sign that you are a spiritual messenger. You have ceased to live for yourself, and instead, you have become a channel through which divine love, wisdom, and healing flow naturally into the world. Your mission is no longer a distant calling, it is the silent, steady rhythm of your soul, moving in perfect attunement with the infinite, awakening others not by force, but by the sheer presence of spirit alive within you. Beloved, as this divine transformation completes its quiet work within you, a final realization dawns, a truth so profound that it reshapes every breath, every thought, every act of your life. You come to know, not as belief but as living experience, that you and God were never separate, that the message you carry is not words or doctrines, but the radiant vibration of divine remembrance itself. At this stage, when you sit in silence, you feel the living presence of the infinite moving through you like a boundless ocean. Prayer is no longer petition, it is communion. Meditation is not escape, it is union. The barriers of ego, fear, and worldly identity dissolve like mist before the rising sun, and what remains is pure spirit flowing through the temple of your being. This is not an exalted state reserved for saints alone. It is the natural destiny of every soul. But in spiritual messengers, it begins to blossom early, for they are called to carry this light into a darkened world. You may find yourself speaking less, yet saying more with your eyes, your touch, your silent presence. Those around you may feel uplifted without knowing why, as if a weight has been lifted from their hearts simply by being near you. This is not personal magnetism. It is divine energy emanating through you unobstructed, healing and awakening others through the silent power of spirit. In this state of realization, you see life differently. You understand that every trial was sacred preparation, every sorrow a hidden blessing, every joy a glimpse of God's eternal bliss. You no longer resist destiny nor seek to control it, for you have learned the highest truth, that a spiritual messenger is not self-appointed but divinely chosen, and their only task is to remain surrendered, allowing God to do His work through them. And so, beloved, if as you have heard these words, something deep within you has stirred, if you have recognized these signs in the quiet chambers of your own soul, know that this is no accident. Spirit is whispering to you, reminding you of the mission you carried into this life long before you drew your first breath. Trust it, nurture it, surrender to it in humility and love. For when you walk as a spiritual messenger, you walk not alone, you walk with God Himself. And through you, His light shall guide countless souls back to their eternal home in the infinite. Beloved soul, once this sacred recognition has dawned within you, life itself becomes a vast, living scripture, written not in ink or stone, but in divine vibrations that guide your every moment. The winds that stir the trees, the silent stars that watch from the heavens, the quiet stirrings of your own heart all become whispers of God, reminding you that your steps are no longer ordinary. They are guided by the eternal purpose for which you came. You will begin to notice that the burdens you once carried, fears of failure, doubts about your worth, attachments to worldly praise or blame, fall away like leaves from a tree in autumn. You realize you were never meant to cling to them. They were temporary veils placed over your true nature, meant only to teach you how to see through illusion and find your way home to spirit. As these veils dissolve, your soul feels lighter, freer, as though an invisible chain has been broken and you are finally able to soar toward the infinite skies of divine bliss. From this higher vantage point, you understand why the path of the spiritual messenger is both hidden and revealed, both silent and world-shaking. God hides His messengers in plain sight, clothing them in humility and quiet service, so that they may not be corrupted by pride or the lure of power. Yet, when the time comes, Spirit also reveals them unmistakably, not through grand proclamations, but through the undeniable radiance of divine truth flowing through their words, actions, and very presence. When you reach this state of realization, your service to the world no longer feels like an obligation or sacrifice. It is pure joy, the spontaneous expression of your soul overflowing with divine love. To lift another's burden becomes as natural as breathing. To share wisdom that brings light to a seeker's heart feels like sunlight streaming through a clear window. This is the secret of the spiritual messenger. They do not teach from their own will. They simply allow God's eternal message to flow through them unhindered, a stream of living water quenching the thirst of souls. And so, beloved, let your heart rest in the assurance that all the struggles, doubts, and sacred signs you have experienced were not random. They were the careful hands of Spirit shaping you into an instrument of light, destined to remind humanity of its forgotten divinity. Walk this path with courage, with humility, and above all with unwavering love, for you are never alone. The same divine power that called you will sustain you, and through you, countless others will remember the song of their own souls and awaken to the boundless joy of God's eternal presence. Beloved soul, as you continue to awaken to this divine mission, you will notice that your relationship with the world undergoes a profound transformation. You no longer see yourself as a solitary traveler navigating life's uncertainties, nor do you view others merely as passing figures in a fleeting drama. Instead, you begin to feel the great, silent unity of all beings, a single, luminous thread of spirit weaving through every soul, every event, every breath of existence. From this expanded awareness, compassion blossoms effortlessly. The struggles of others no longer feel separate from your own, for you recognize that every sorrow, every act of ignorance or fear, is simply a cry of the soul yearning to return to its true home in God. You cannot help but respond to these cries not from pity or judgment, but from the same divine love that now sustains your every heartbeat. You find yourself offering a kind word where anger might have once arisen, extending forgiveness where blame would have seemed natural, and silently praying for those who know not yet the peace that floods your heart. And as you live this way, quietly attuned to Spirit, you discover that miracles begin to flow through your life, not as sudden flashes of supernatural spectacle, but as the gentle, unceasing rhythm of divine grace. Situations that once felt impossible to resolve find harmony without effort. People you encounter seem mysteriously uplifted, as though a hidden light within them had been switched on by your presence alone. You begin to understand that the true miracle is not in outward displays of power, but in the silent transformation of consciousness first within yourself, and then rippling outward into every life you touch. This is the sacred work of a spiritual messenger, to embody God's presence so fully that every word, every action, and even every silence becomes a vessel of divine blessing. And though you may not always see the full impact of your mission in this lifetime, know that every soul you uplift, every spark of remembrance you kindle, contributes to the awakening of humanity as a whole. Your life becomes like a candle passed from one hand to another, lighting fires of truth that will continue to burn long after your earthly journey is complete. Beloved, as you walk this path, you may sometimes wonder if you are ready, if you are worthy to carry such a mission. But remember this eternal truth. It is not your strength that will sustain you, nor your wisdom that will lead others home. It is God alone who works through you, and it is God alone who chose you before time began, knowing that one day you would awaken and say, "Here I am, Lord. Use me." In that surrender lies your greatest power, for when you are no longer bound by self, you are free to serve as a radiant messenger of the infinite light that never dies. Beloved one, as the realization of your calling deepens, you begin to understand that this journey of becoming a spiritual messenger is not a sudden leap into greatness, but a gentle unfolding guided by unseen hands. Every moment of stillness, every prayer whispered in solitude, every challenge met with faith has been shaping you for this purpose, polishing your soul like a diamond, meant to reflect the eternal brilliance of God's light. There will be times when you feel unseen or misunderstood by the world, when those closest to you cannot comprehend the sacred fire burning in your heart. But do not let discouragement touch you, for even the great masters walked quietly in shadow before their light became a beacon to the multitudes. Yogananda himself spent years in deep meditation and humble service, silently allowing spirit to carve away all that was not in harmony with divine will, until his very presence became a temple where seekers could feel God's living breath. In your own life, beloved, you may notice that spirit gently removes certain attachments, relationships, or comforts that once seemed essential. This is not loss, but divine protection, creating space for the deeper currents of your mission to flow unobstructed. A true messenger cannot be weighed down by the chains of worldly desire, nor can they carry the burdens of egoic ambition. Like a bird meant to soar high above the earth, your wings must be freed of every tether that keeps you from rising into divine freedom. And as you rise, you will discover that the message you are meant to share is not a complex doctrine, nor a rigid set of rules, but a living vibration of truth that springs directly from your communion with God. Words may be used, actions may serve as vessels, but the true teaching lies in the silent transmission of spirit itself. Those who come near you will feel a stirring in their own souls, a remembering of something eternal they had long forgotten. This is how God's messengers awaken others, not by force or persuasion, but by embodying so fully the divine presence that others cannot help but feel its call within themselves. Beloved, the world may never fully recognize the quiet magnitude of your mission, but this does not matter. A single soul awakened to truth has more power to uplift humanity than countless armies or empires. In ways you may never see, your surrender, your prayers, your silent dedication to God's will are planting seeds of light that will blossom across generations, guiding lost souls homeward long after your earthly voice has grown still. This is the eternal work of a spiritual messenger, and it is the destiny that your soul has carried from the beginning of time. Beloved soul, as this sacred journey draws to its close, let us pause together in the stillness of spirit and feel the truth of everything that has been spoken. You have walked through silent trials that few could see. You have been shaped by invisible hands that guided you towards something higher than worldly purpose. And now you stand on the threshold of your divine destiny as a messenger of the infinite. This is not a role you must strive to achieve. It is the truth of who you already are, waiting to blossom fully in the light of God's presence. Now, let all doubts fall away. Let every fear, every question of worthiness dissolve like mist before the rising sun of divine remembrance. Whisper inwardly to the beloved, "I am thine. Use me as thou wilt." Feel those words not as mere thoughts, but as the living breath of your soul, surrendering completely to the eternal friend who has walked with you through lifetimes unseen. In this surrender, you are no longer a seeker wandering in darkness. You have become a shining lamp through which Spirit's boundless love can illumine countless hearts still searching for the way home. Know that your mission does not depend on recognition, grand gestures, or outward validation. The silent prayer offered in faith, the hidden act of kindness, the steady gaze lifted toward God in the midst of life's storms, these are the signs of true spiritual service. Your life itself becomes the message, a radiant vibration that speaks louder than words, awakening divine remembrance in all who cross your path. And so, beloved, walk forward with serenity and joy, knowing that you are never alone. The masters who came before you walk beside you even now, whispering their guidance in moments of stillness, strengthening your heart when trials arise, rejoicing silently as you take each step in faith. You are part of an unbroken lineage of light bearers, souls chosen not to escape this world, but to transform it gently by living as vessels of God's love. Close your eyes for a moment, place your hands upon your heart, and breathe deeply. Inhale, I am a child of the infinite. Hold. Feel the divine current flowing through every cell of your being. Exhale. Through me, thy light shall shine. Carry this affirmation into every dawn, every moment of prayer and service, until you know without doubt that your soul was always destined to be a messenger of Spirit's eternal joy. And when others feel that joy awakening within them because of your quiet presence, you will know that the divine purpose of this life has been fulfilled. Beloved soul, for centuries the name of Jesus has been spoken in temples and churches, echoed through prayers and hymns, carried on the wind of human devotion. Yet I tell you now with divine certainty, what many believe about Jesus is not the full truth of what he came to reveal. For 20 years, institutions have spoken in his name, but the heart of his message, pure, transformative, divine, has been veiled by layers of misunderstanding, altered to fit human dogma rather than divine realization. I come to you not to criticize, but to peel away those veils and invite you to see Jesus as he truly was, a radiant Son of God, a fully awakened yogi who walked this earth to guide every soul to the same inner realization he had attained. When he said, "The kingdom of God is within you," he was not offering metaphor. He was pointing to a living truth that resides in your very breath, in the stillness of your soul, waiting to be uncovered by divine communion. Understand this deeply. Jesus did not come to establish mere ritual or rigid institutions. He came to ignite the eternal flame of divine awareness within every being. He did not seek followers who would worship him from afar. He sought disciples who would awaken to their own oneness with God, who would rise into Christ consciousness and declare with him, "I and my Father are one." But as time passed, fear and power distorted this sacred message. The spiritual science that Jesus lived and taught an inner path to direct God communion was hidden, replaced by external rules and blind belief. The living Christ became a distant idol rather than a living presence in the soul. Beloved one, let us journey together now into the unfiltered revelation of what Jesus truly taught. Let us walk past the walls of tradition and enter the silent garden of divine truth where his Spirit still speaks, where every word he uttered still vibrates with the same luminous power that healed the sick, calmed the seas, and awakened hearts to the eternal. When you hear these truths, as they were revealed to me by divine vision and the grace of the Masters, you will no longer think of Jesus as a figure bound to history. You will feel him alive within your own being, guiding you toward the same divine union he embodied. And when this realization dawns, you will understand why the Masters of East and West bow to the same eternal Spirit, for Jesus and the yogis of India drink from the same divine fountain of God realization. In this sacred exploration, I will show you how Jesus lived as a God-illumined master, how his teaching mirrors the eternal yoga of the soul, how centuries of distortion have hidden the key to divine liberation, and how you too can awaken the inner Christ that sleeps within you. Come with me, beloved soul, and let us open the pages of eternity, where Jesus still whispers to the devoted heart, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect." This is the truth the world has forgotten, but which your soul remembers, for it is written not in Scripture alone, but in the eternal light of your own spirit. Beloved one, to truly understand Jesus as he walked upon this earth, you must see beyond the image of a distant, untouchable Savior and feel the living presence of a God-realized Master who came to show humanity its own divine potential. He was not born merely to be worshipped. He was born to awaken, to uplift, to serve as a bridge of light between human consciousness and the infinite presence of the Father. When you think of Jesus, do not think of him as confined to a single faith or bound by the chains of history. Feel him instead as a vast spiritual sun whose rays shine upon all souls, regardless of creed or time, calling each one to step into the same radiance of God awareness that he himself had attained. In his teachings, Jesus spoke often of the Father, not as a distant ruler seated in some far-off heaven, but as an intimate, ever-present reality within the soul. When he said, "The kingdom of God is within you," he was pointing to a mystical truth that deep within every person lies a sacred doorway leading to infinite consciousness, and that through right understanding and deep communion, anyone can pass through that doorway and know God directly. This was not a promise for saints alone. It was a divine invitation for all humanity. Jesus embodied what in the East is called Christ consciousness, a state of perfect attunement with spirit where the individual self dissolves into the eternal self, and one knows by direct experience, "I and my Father are one." This is not a figure of speech, nor a privilege granted only to one soul in history. It is the destiny of every being created in the image of God. Yogananda revealed that Jesus, like the illumined rishis and masters of India, had fully awakened to this reality, mastering the inner science of divine union, and came to teach humanity how to follow the same sacred path. But as time passed, the clarity of this teaching was veiled. Political agendas, fear, and the human desire for control replaced spiritual practice with ritual, living truth with rigid dogma. Instead of walking the inner path of transformation Jesus had opened, generations were taught to worship the messenger while neglecting the method. The world was told to believe in salvation rather than to experience it directly through communion with Spirit. Thus, the luminous lamp of Christ's true message was covered by centuries of fog, and what was meant to liberate humanity became a chain of misunderstanding. Beloved soul, let us peel away these coverings and rediscover the radiant heart of Jesus' teaching as it truly is. A call to divine realization, a spiritual science that unites prayer with meditation, love with wisdom, action with surrender, guiding every sincere seeker toward the same oneness with God that Jesus himself attained. When you hear these truths, let them not remain as words upon the air. Let them stir something ancient and eternal within you, for your soul has walked with this truth before, and it longs now to awaken again. Beloved, let us now enter deeper into this revelation and see Jesus as a divine master whose mission was not to establish boundaries, but to dissolve them. His every word was a vibration of spirit, carrying within it not mere instruction but the living power to awaken slumbering souls. When he walked among fishermen and shepherds, he was not preaching an unreachable ideal, but calling forth the divine greatness already seated within their hearts. He would look into the eyes of the humble and the weary and say, "Ye are the light of the world," not as poetic comfort, but as a living recognition of their true nature, hidden beneath layers of ignorance and fear. This recognition is the essence of what Yogananda called Christ consciousness. Imagine, beloved, the ocean stretching endlessly in every direction, limitless, unfathomable, ever-present. Now imagine a single wave rising upon its surface, shining in the sunlight, appearing for a moment as a separate being. This is the human ego, the sense of individuality. But just as the wave is never truly separate from the ocean, you too are never separate from the infinite spirit. Christ consciousness is the awakening to this truth, the realization that the same divine ocean that animated Jesus also animates you. When Jesus withdrew into the wilderness for 40 days, when he spent nights in prayer upon lonely hillsides, he was communing directly with this infinite presence. He was practicing the same divine union that yogis have sought in the Himalayan caves for millennia, drawing the mind away from the distractions of the senses and uniting it with the eternal light within. This inner practice was not meant for him alone. Through his teachings, through the power of his presence, he planted seeds in every soul to inspire this same turning inward, this same divine communion. But as time passed, many began to see him not as a guide pointing to the inner kingdom, but as a unique miracle, an exception to human destiny. They worshiped the wave instead of merging with the ocean. And thus, the invitation to awaken, as he had awakened, was forgotten, replaced by doctrines that place salvation forever outside oneself. Yet the true words of Jesus remain, undimmed by centuries. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. This is not commandment but prophesy, promise of what every soul can and must one day become. Beloved, Yogananda came to remind the world of this hidden teaching, that Jesus' life was a blueprint, not a spectacle. He came not to display powers beyond human reach, but to show what every child of God can accomplish when fully attuned to spirit. His healings, his miracles, his calm dominion over death itself were natural expressions of divine consciousness, powers latent in every soul awaiting only the stillness and surrender that awakens them. Jesus did not seek to be adored for eternity. He came to awaken gods out of mortals, to lift humanity from the dream of limitation into the living reality of the soul's eternal oneness with the Father. Beloved soul, when you understand this deeper vision of Jesus, you no longer see his words as distant echoes from history, but as a living call to rise into your own divine nature. His parables, often treated as moral lessons for outward behavior, are in truth mystical signposts pointing the seeker inward. When he spoke of the mustard seed of faith that could move mountains, he was revealing a profound spiritual law. That the divine potential within you, though it appears as a small and hidden seed, contains the infinite power of spirit itself, able to dissolve the mountains of ignorance and fear that block your path to God. When he spoke of the narrow gate and the straight path leading to life everlasting, he was not speaking of entering physical temples or adopting particular religious labels. He was describing the inner journey of meditation, where the restless currents of the senses and the storm of worldly desires are stilled, allowing the soul to enter through the narrow gate of divine perception into the vast and radiant kingdom of God consciousness. This is the same truth that yogis of India have taught for ages, that the way to spirit is not outwardly traveled but inwardly ascended, step by step along the subtle spine, until the soul reaches the highest center of divine vision and merges with eternal light. Beloved, even Jesus' miracles, which many have turned into legends of supernatural power, were never meant to be marvels to set him apart. They were demonstrations of natural, spiritual laws accessible to every awakened soul. When he healed the sick, calmed storms, or raised the dead, he did so not through personal magic but through his oneness with the Father, the infinite intelligence that animates and harmonizes all creation. What he could do, every soul can one day do, for he himself declared, "The works that I do shall ye do also, and greater works than these shall ye do, because I go unto my Father." Do you see, beloved? The mission of Jesus was not to build a throne for himself, but to invite humanity to ascend the same throne of divine union. And yet, how many centuries have passed with this truth obscured, hidden behind ceremonies and beliefs that ask you only to adore him rather than become like him? The light he brought was never meant to be contained within walls of dogma. It was meant to shine in every heart, awakening the sleeping Christ within, so that humanity might be transformed not through fear of judgment but through the bliss of divine remembrance. It is this lost understanding that Yogananda came to restore to the West. Through his divine insight, he revealed that Jesus and the great masters of yoga speak the same eternal language of spirit. The silence of deep meditation that yogis practice in India is the same silence Jesus entered when he withdrew to pray alone. The inner communion with the Father that Jesus described is the same samadhi that yogis have experienced from millennia state, where breath and thought cease, and the soul merges with infinite bliss. Through this unification of East and West, Yogananda showed that Jesus was not a foreign figure to the wisdom of India, but a radiant expression of its deepest spiritual truths, a yogi of the highest order, sent to lift the consciousness of the world. Beloved soul, when you look upon Jesus through this divine lens, you begin to feel the living current of his presence flowing through time and space, uniting the wisdom of the East and the West, joining the ancient yoga of India with the eternal gospel of Christ. You see that his words were never meant to be frozen in scripture alone, but to vibrate as a living power within your own soul, awakening you to the same inner transformation he embodied. He walked among humanity not to declare himself an exception, but to demonstrate the universal path that every being can walk. Think of how he spoke of prayer. In the modern world, prayer has become largely a ritual of asking and reciting, but Jesus taught prayer as inner communion. He withdrew often to the silence of mountaintops, to gardens, to lonely shores, not to recite words but to enter the holy stillness where the soul meets the Father face to face. He said, "When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly." This closet is not of wood or stone, it is the inner chamber of the soul, where breath slows, thoughts are stilled, and Spirit's presence is felt directly. Beloved, does this not sound like the ancient practice of meditation? It is the same divine science the yogis have preserved for ages, teaching that by turning inward, withdrawing the restless senses and mind into silent stillness, one opens the channel through which God's living voice can be heard. Yogananda revealed that Jesus himself must have known and practiced this science of spirit communion. Without it, how could he have manifested such perfect harmony with the divine, such boundless love and calm dominion over the storms of the world? When Jesus spoke of the single eye that fills the whole body with light, he was pointing to the spiritual eye, the inner doorway through which the yogi ascends to divine vision. This is not imagination, beloved. It is a tangible experience that every dedicated seeker can know. In deep meditation, as consciousness withdraws from the physical body and the senses, a brilliant light appears at the point between the eyebrows, the golden halo, with a deep blue center and a white, five-pointed star. This is the inner star of Christ consciousness, the same light that guided the wise men to the birth of Jesus. When entered fully, it leads the soul into the boundless presence of Spirit, where one knows by direct realization, "I and my Father are one." This, beloved, is the true teaching Jesus came to deliver, not merely that salvation comes by believing in his name, but that by walking the inner path of self-purification, love, stillness, and divine communion, every soul can awaken to the same Christ consciousness that made him one with God. And this is why Yogananda proclaimed that Jesus belongs not to one religion alone, but to the entire world, for the truth he revealed transcends all boundaries. It is the eternal truth of the soul's oneness with Spirit, a truth that has been echoed by every enlightened master throughout time. Beloved, as this realization unfolds in your heart, you begin to see that the story of Jesus is not merely a chronicle of miracles performed long ago, it is a mirror reflecting your own highest destiny. The love he carried, the wisdom that shone through his eyes, the power to heal and to uplift, all these were not gifts given to one man alone, but divine qualities latent in every child of God. His life was a sacred demonstration, a radiant promise that you, too, can rise from the slumber of delusion and awaken to the boundless joy and light of Spirit. When he spoke of the resurrection, he was not speaking only of his body rising from the tomb, but of the resurrection of consciousness, that each soul must one day experience the lifting of awareness from the darkness of ego and material bondage into the radiant freedom of divine realization. This is why he declared, "Except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God." To be born again is to awaken from mortal identification, to shed the chains of karma and ignorance, and to remember that you are an immortal spark of the infinite. This rebirth does not wait for death or some distant heaven. It is attained here and now through inner communion with God. Yogananda revealed that Jesus' entire mission was to guide souls to this inner rebirth, to show them the way to ascend spiritually, as he had done. In India, the science of this ascent is called Kriya Yoga, sacred technique handed down by enlightened masters to accelerate the evolution of the soul. Through breath and life force control, through the stilling of restless thoughts and the awakening of the divine energy in the spine, the seeker climbs step by step toward the inner light of Spirit. Yogananda taught that this science is the same universal path Jesus himself practiced and imparted to his closest disciples. Though centuries of time and layers of dogma obscured its form, its essence remains unchanged. It is the path of conscious union with God. Beloved soul, imagine how the world would transform if humanity remembered this forgotten truth. If every prayer turned inward toward stillness, if every act of worship became a practice of awakening the inner Christ, if love for God burned brighter than fear of judgment, then churches would become living temples of divine experience. Nations would no longer war in the name of religion, for all would recognize that the same Spirit breathes through every faith, every soul. Jesus did not come to divide but to unite humanity in the universal family of God, to teach that there is but one Father and that every being is a radiant child of that infinite love. This is the unfiltered revelation of Jesus' teaching a truth as alive today as when it flowed from his lips by the Sea of Galilee. Yogananda brought this message to the modern world, not as theory or speculation, but as direct experience bestowed upon him by divine communion and the living guidance of the Masters. And now, beloved, it is offered to you. When you close your eyes in stillness, lift your gaze to the inner light, and call upon God with love and unwavering faith, you will feel the same presence that moved through Jesus every breath. You will know that the Christ he embodied is not distant or exclusive, but the eternal reality of your own soul, waiting to awaken and shine forth as the divine image in which you were made. Beloved soul, to truly live in this awakening, you must begin where Jesus began, in the silence of inner communion. The world will tell you that prayer is words spoken outwardly, that devotion is measured by recitation or public display, but Jesus himself taught otherwise. He entered deserts, mountains, and gardens alone, far from the noise of the crowd, to commune with the Father in the secret chamber of the soul. He did not seek applause or ritualistic grandeur. He sought the stillness where spirit speaks without sound and guides without speech. When you meditate, when you sit in silent reverence, you are walking in the footsteps of Jesus. The restless mind begins to calm, the chattering of thoughts fades, and the divine whisper of the infinite is heard more clearly than the loudest voice of this world. In that sacred stillness, the presence of God becomes tangible, flowing through your being like a river of light. This was the source of Jesus' power, not worldly influence or human intellect, but direct communion with the boundless spirit that moves suns and stars and breathes life into every atom of creation. And what was his message after experiencing this divine union? He said, "All things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive." This was not a promise to fulfill worldly whims, but an assurance that when you attune your consciousness to spirit, when you believe not with the mind but with the soul's knowing, divine wisdom flows through you, guiding your every step. This is why Jesus could heal the sick, calm storms, and radiate peace even in the midst of turmoil, because his consciousness was anchored in God's unshakable presence. Yogananda revealed that this anchoring is the very essence of true meditation. It is not mere relaxation or silent sitting. It is an active process of uniting the soul with its source. As you lift your awareness up the spine toward the divine light of the spiritual eye, as you withdraw the wandering currents of energy from the senses and center them in divine stillness, you begin to feel the same inner Christ that guided Jesus. It is not imagination. It is a living transformation of consciousness that dissolves fear, ego, and ignorance, replacing them with wisdom, love, and divine joy that no earthly power can take away. Beloved, the time has come for you to reclaim this hidden heritage. The same Christ consciousness that lived in Jesus is not far from you, is the deepest truth of your being. When you meditate with devotion, when you love God with every breath, when you surrender your little self into the vast ocean of spirit, you too can declare, "Not I, but Christ within me." This is not blasphemy, but the highest fulfillment of Jesus' mission, for he came not to be worshipped as unreachable, but to awaken gods out of mortals, to show that the Father's house has many mansions, and that each soul has a place in its eternal light. Beloved soul, as you allow this realization to deepen within you, you begin to sense that the teachings of Jesus are not bound to Scripture alone, but vibrate through the very currents of life itself. Every breath you take is a whisper of spirit, every beat of your heart an echo of divine love calling you home. This is why Jesus often spoke not in abstract theology, but in simple, living images: vines and branches, seeds and soil, shepherds and sheep. These were not just lessons for farmers and fishermen. They were revelations of the intimate bond between the soul and its creator, showing that divine truth is woven into every fiber of existence. He taught that you are not merely flesh and bone, subject to the whims of fate. You are a branch on the eternal vine of spirit, and when you abide in that vine, when you remain rooted in divine consciousness, life flows through you as naturally as sap through the stem, bearing fruits of love, wisdom, and inner strength. When you forget this connection and wander into the wilderness of ego and material desire, you feel withered, lost, and powerless. Yet the vine never rejects you. It waits patiently for your return, ready to infuse your being with the living presence of God. This living presence is what Yogananda described as the ever-conscious, ever-blissful Christ consciousness. It is not limited by geography or time. It is not confined to a single teacher or tradition. It is the universal light that shone through Jesus' eyes, the same light that illumined the sages of the East, and the same light that now seeks to awaken in you. Through meditation, through inner devotion, you reconnect with this light, and as you do, you begin to see the world as Jesus saw it, not as a battlefield of separateness, but as a divine play of spirit unfolding in perfect harmony. When this vision dawns, miracles cease to be extraordinary events reserved for saints and prophets. They become the natural expression of a soul aligned with divine law. Healing flows through your touch, peace radiates from your presence, wisdom guides your speech, not because you strive to be miraculous, but because you have remembered your true nature as a child of God. This is why Jesus said, "Ye are gods," not as flattery or metaphor, but as an eternal truth obscured by lifetimes of delusion. Beloved, as you walk this path of inner awakening, do not think that you are leaving behind the teachings of Jesus. On the contrary, you are stepping into their deepest essence. Every moment spent in meditation, every act of selfless love, every breath surrendered to Spirit is a step closer to the divine union He came to reveal. And when you reach that union, when you feel within yourself the same boundless joy and oneness with God that filled Jesus' heart, you will understand His final, unspoken teaching, that the Christ you seek has always been within you, waiting patiently for you to awaken and shine. Beloved one, when this awakening finally begins to stir within you, something profound happens. The way you see Jesus changes forever. No longer do you think of Him only as a distant Savior gazing down from a faraway heaven, but as a living, breathing presence within your very soul. His journey no longer feels like a story told about another life long ago. It feels like the map of your own divine destiny, unfolding step by step. Every trial He faced, every moment of prayer and surrender, every triumph over fear and death itself becomes a mirror reflecting the hidden strength and eternal light within you. In this sacred realization, you begin to understand why Yogananda came to remind the modern world of Christ's unfiltered teaching. He came to remove the veil that centuries of misunderstanding had drawn over Jesus' words and life. Yogananda declared with unwavering certainty that Jesus was not a remote figure to be worshipped from afar, but a master yogi, an illumined soul who had walked the same inner path that all great saints and sages have traveled. This truth has the power to unite the wisdom of East and West, to heal the divisions that have separated faiths and nations, and to reveal that there is only one eternal science of the Sula divine pathway that leads every seeker to conscious oneness with God. When you embrace this truth, fear dissolves. The fear of judgment, the fear of unworthiness, the fear of never being able to truly know God, all these illusions fall away like shadows before the rising sun of spiritual understanding. Jesus never taught that the kingdom of heaven is an unattainable reward for the few. He proclaimed it as the birthright of every soul, hidden not in the clouds above, but in the quiet chamber of the Spirit within. And so, beloved, the invitation is laid before you now, just as Jesus laid it before His disciples 2,000 years ago, to step away from the clamor of worldly distractions, to silence the restless winds of thought and desire, and to journey inward to meet the eternal Father face to face. Through meditation, through devotion, through the steady purification of heart and mind, you will find that what you once sought as distant and unimaginable is nearer than your breath, closer than your heartbeat. When at last you touch this infinite presence, when you feel the unbroken peace, the radiant joy, the vast and tender love of God flowing through your being, you will understand what Jesus meant when He said, "The Father and I are one." In that sublime moment, you will not feel yourself as a frail and limited creature, stumbling through a hostile world. You will know yourself as an immortal spark of the divine, embraced eternally by the same Spirit that guided and glorified Jesus. This is not theory or metaphor, it is the living truth of your own soul waiting to be revealed. The sacred promise whispered across time by masters of every age. Beloved soul, when this sacred promise begins to awaken within you, your entire relationship with life itself is transformed. No longer do you wander aimlessly, seeking fulfillment in fleeting pleasures or clinging to temporary securities. Instead, you begin to walk with the quiet confidence of one who has glimpsed eternity, who knows that behind every passing joy and sorrow shines the unchanging presence of God. This is the divine vision Jesus carried within him every moment of his earthly journey, and it is the vision he longed to ignite in every heart he touched. Yogananda revealed that this awakening is not a matter of blind belief or outer ritual. It is a living science of spiritual realization that anyone, regardless of background or creed, can learn and experience. Just as a scientist studies the laws of nature and discovers truths that were always there, so too can the seeker study and practice the inner laws of spirit to discover the boundless light and bliss that has always been the soul's true nature. Meditation is the key that unlocks this inner world. Through meditation, you begin to still the restless waves of thought that keep your consciousness trapped in the narrow confines of ego. As the mind quiets, you feel your awareness expanding beyond the body, beyond the ever-changing play of emotions, into a realm of profound peace and luminous clarity. This is where you encounter what Jesus called the Father Pure, infinite spirit, radiant with love, alive with wisdom, free from all limitations of matter and time. And in that sacred communion, something wondrous occurs. The heavy burdens of guilt and fear begin to melt away. The old wounds of the past lose their grip. You no longer feel alone in your struggles, for you sense a guiding hand gently leading you through life's complexities. Divine intuition awakens, whispering solutions to problems that once seemed insurmountable. A deep, unshakable joy wells up within you, not dependent on outer circumstances, but flowing directly from the inexhaustible spring of spirit. This is the hidden power of Jesus' teaching, a power that Yogananda came to restore to a world that had forgotten its own divine heritage. Jesus did not come to teach resignation to suffering or subservience to dogma. He came to show you how to claim your birthright as a conscious, radiant child of God. When he said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," he meant that heaven is not a distant reward but a living reality accessible through inner awakening, through the divine practices that quiet the mind and open the soul to its own infinite light. Beloved, as you walk this path of spiritual awakening, as you practice stillness and communion with the eternal, you too will feel what Jesus felt: the embrace of the infinite, the certainty of divine protection, and the boundless joy of knowing that your soul has never been separate from its source. This is the revelation that unites East and West, past and present, master and disciple. It is the timeless truth that dissolves all barriers and declares with unshakable certainty, you are, and always have been, one with God. Beloved one, as this realization grows deeper, you begin to understand why Jesus spoke with such divine authority and unshakable peace in the face of trials that would have broken ordinary men. When accused, he did not crumble in fear. When betrayed, he did not respond with hatred. When crucified, he did not cry out in despair but lifted his gaze heavenward and whispered words of forgiveness. These were not the acts of a man alone, they were the natural expressions of a soul fully united with spirit, a consciousness that knew without doubt that no worldly suffering could touch the eternal light within. This is the transformation Yogananda longed to awaken in every seeker. The same fearless love, the same unbroken connection with God that Jesus lived every moment of his earthly journey. Through the science of meditation and divine communion, you too can rise beyond the turbulence of human limitations and taste that immortal freedom. As you practice inner stillness, as you lift your consciousness upward toward the spiritual eye and silently commune with the infinite, you will feel the divine current that sustained Jesus flowing through your own being. And as this divine current awakens, a new wisdom dawns within you. You no longer see life as a series of random events but as a purposeful unfolding of divine intelligence. Challenges become opportunities to strengthen your faith and deepen your union with Spirit. Relationships transform from bonds of attachment and expectation into expressions of unconditional love and spiritual friendship. Even death itself loses its shadow of fear, for you perceive it not as an ending but as a doorway leading into higher realms of light and freedom. Beloved, this is the hidden essence of what Jesus truly taught, a truth often lost in centuries of interpretation and ritual. He came not merely to establish a faith to be worshipped from afar, but to show every soul the way to divine realization, to prove that the same infinite spirit that lived and moved through him lives equally within you. Yogananda's revelation brings this truth to life once again. bridging the wisdom of East and West, and offering a practical, experiential path that allows you to follow in the footsteps of Christ, not in blind imitation, but in direct, living experience. When you enter deep meditation, when you feel the breath still and the mind dissolve into the silent ocean of divine presence, you will know beyond all doubt that you are touching the same kingdom of heaven that Jesus spoke of. And in that sacred communion, you will hear the same eternal message: be still and know that I am God. In that moment, you will realize that what Jesus achieved is not a distant miracle, but the destiny of every soul to awaken from the dream of separation and to live forever in the boundless joy, wisdom, and love of Spirit. Beloved soul, when you taste even a single drop of this boundless joy, something irreversible happens within you. The old cravings for worldly approval, fleeting pleasures, and restless pursuits begin to lose their hold. You see that what you once thought of as happiness was but a pale shadow of the bliss that comes from union with the divine. This bliss is not an emotion that rises and falls. It is the eternal nature of your soul, hidden beneath layers of delusion and distraction. Jesus knew this truth intimately, and it is why his presence radiated a peace and compassion that drew countless souls toward him like a magnetic sun. In his silent moments of communion with the Father, Jesus entered the same inner kingdom that the great yogis of India had discovered for millennia, a realm where the breath slows, the mind is stilled, and Spirit's infinite love floods every fiber of being. Yogananda unveiled this connection not to diminish the uniqueness of Christ, but to reveal his universal significance. Jesus was not a solitary exception, but a luminous example of what every soul is destined to become. Through Kriya Yoga and deep meditation, you too can feel this divine transformation. With each breath harmonized to Spirit, with each thought surrendered into the stillness of God's presence, you cleanse the mirror of your consciousness, allowing it to reflect the infinite light of Christ consciousness. Gradually, your life itself becomes a prayer, not a series of recited words, but a living expression of divine love and wisdom moving effortlessly through you. Beloved, imagine how your days would unfold if, in every moment, you felt the same unbroken connection to Spirit that Jesus carried. No insult could disturb your peace, for you would know your true worth in God. No fear could bind you, for you would sense the immortal strength of your soul. No sorrow could overcome you, for you would feel the eternal comfort of divine joy flowing ceaselessly within. This is not an unreachable ideal. It is the very purpose for which you were created, the fulfillment of the promise that the kingdom of heaven is within you. As you walk this inner path, guided by the wisdom of masters like Yogananda and the living example of Jesus, you become a beacon of light for others still wandering in darkness. Your calm presence inspires. Your quiet acts of love heal unseen wounds. Your words born not of intellect, but of Spirit awaken hope in weary hearts. And just as Jesus told his disciples that they would do even greater works than he did, so too will divine grace move through you, performing miracles of transformation that uplift not only your life, but the lives of all who touch your path. This, beloved, is the unfiltered revelation of Jesus' teaching, that you are not destined to remain bound in ignorance or suffering, but to rise into conscious oneness with God, to know as he knew, to love as he loved, to live as a radiant expression of Spirit itself. And when you step fully into this realization, you will understand that what Jesus truly brought to the world was not a distant hope of salvation, but the living, breathing path of divine liberation that awaits every soul willing to seek it. Beloved one, as this divine liberation begins to blossom in your understanding, a new light breaks through the clouds of doubt and limitation. You realize that salvation is not an event reserved for some future life, or a distant heaven. It is the awakening of your soul here and now, in this very breath, in this very heartbeat. This was the living message of Jesus, a truth so radiant and transformative that it could not be confined by the dogmas and rigid interpretations that later surrounded his teachings. Jesus came not to erect walls of division, but to dissolve them, not to create a narrow gate through which only a chosen few could pass, but to reveal the vast, boundless door to divine freedom that stands open for all. Yogananda illuminated this door once more for the modern seeker, showing that it is not reached by outward rituals alone, but by inner communion, by stilling the storms of thought and rising into the clear, endless sky of Spirit where Christ consciousness reigns. In this awakened state, life itself becomes a testament to divine truth. You no longer cling to human approval, for you feel the approving gaze of God within. You no longer chase fleeting satisfactions, for you are nourished by an unending wellspring of bliss. The struggles that once seemed insurmountable lose their power, for you understand that you are not a fragile body tossed by fate, but an immortal soul guided by the infinite intelligence of spirit. Beloved, this is why Jesus could speak of forgiveness even on the cross, why he could command the winds and walk upon the waters not as miracles meant to astonish the world, but as the natural expressions of a consciousness completely aligned with divine law. These were signs not of exceptionality, but of the soul's true potential, waiting to be realized within each of us. Through the path of meditation, devotion, and surrender to divine will, you begin to experience this same alignment. Each moment spent in stillness draws you closer to the center of your being, where God resides. Each prayer spoken with pure longing lifts another veil of separation. Each breath offered as worship carries you higher into the luminous presence that Jesus called the Father. And as you rise, you feel the truth that Yogananda so passionately revealed, that Christ was not bound to one body or one moment in time, but is an ever-living consciousness that permeates creation, calling every soul to awaken and return to its source. The more you meditate, the more you love selflessly, the more you surrender ego into divine light, the more this consciousness shines within you, until one day, like Jesus, you too can declare with unshakable certainty, I and my Father are one. This, beloved, is the final revelation, that the teachings of Jesus were never meant to be distant words etched in history, but living flames meant to ignite your soul with divine remembrance. And when that flame is kindled, when the Christ light burns brightly within, you will know without question that you were never separate, never lost, never forsaken. You have always been, and will forever be, one with the infinite spirit that Jesus came to reveal. Beloved soul, as you let this flame of divine remembrance burn ever brighter within, you begin to perceive life itself as a sacred pilgrimage. Every experience, a step leading you closer to the divine home you have never truly left. Jesus walked this same pilgrimage, not as an unattainable deity removed from human struggle, but as a guide showing each soul that the path to God is not barred by suffering or failure. Instead, these trials are transformed into stepping stones when met with faith and inner communion. Yogananda taught that Jesus' greatest miracle was not healing the sick or calming the storm, but awakening souls to their own divine nature. When Jesus said, "Follow me," he did not mean to worship his personality or repeat his words blindly. He invited all to experience what he himself had attained, the unbroken union with Spirit. And this union, beloved, is not beyond your reach. Through daily meditation, prayer, and devotion, you can touch that same state of divine consciousness where peace reigns unshaken and joy flows like an eternal river. As you deepen in this practice, something extraordinary begins to happen. The walls of separation crumble. You no longer feel isolated from others, for you begin to see in every face the same divine spark that lives within you. Hatred dissolves into compassion, fear transforms into courage, and sorrow blossoms into understanding. This was the essence of Christ's commandment to love one another not as a moral duty alone, but as the natural vision of a soul awakened to divine unity. Imagine a world where this vision spreads from one awakened heart to another, igniting countless souls with the remembrance of their eternal nature. This is the silent revolution that Jesus began, and that Yogananda came to continue. A revolution of consciousness that transcends dogma, culture, and time. It is not about building empires or enforcing belief. It is about freeing every soul from the chains of ignorance and returning it to the boundless love of God. Beloved, when you surrender into this truth, you begin to feel a strength that no earthly challenge can shake. You live not as a captive of fate, but as a conscious instrument of divine will, guided by the same Spirit that moved through Jesus. Life's difficulties no longer crush you. They sculpt you into a clearer channel for God's light. And as this transformation unfolds, you realize that your very existence becomes a message of hope for others, a living testimony that the divine miracle of Christ consciousness is not of the past but alive, waiting to be realized within every seeking heart. This is the hidden teaching that unites all wisdom traditions, the essence of every scripture, the purpose of every true master's life, to awaken you to your own eternal divinity. When you meditate and lift your gaze to the spiritual eye, when you call on the name of God with unwavering love, when you dedicate each breath to spirit, you join this timeless journey of awakening. And as you walk this path with sincerity and courage, you will one day find yourself standing where Jesus stood, beholding the infinite and knowing without doubt, I am a child of the divine. The Father and I are eternally one. Beloved one, as this realization dawns more fully, you begin to understand that every moment of your life is an opportunity to enter this divine union. It is not something to be postponed for a distant future or reserved for saints alone. It is the living purpose of your existence now. When you rise in the morning, the breath you draw can become a silent prayer. When you walk among others, each step can become a rhythm of divine remembrance. When challenges arise, they can be seen not as obstacles, but as invitations to anchor yourself even more deeply in Spirit's unshakable peace. This was the silent message Jesus carried through his every word and action. Even when misunderstood, betrayed, and ultimately crucified, his spirit remained rooted in divine truth. He did not resist his destiny with bitterness, nor did he seek escape from suffering in fear or denial. Instead, he offered every moment joy and pain alike into the hands of the infinite Father. This act of perfect surrender was not defeat but ultimate victory, for through it he demonstrated that nothing, not persecution, not death itself, could sever the eternal bond between the soul and God. Yogananda illuminated this truth for modern seekers, teaching that you too can reach this state of fearless surrender. Through meditation, through inward prayer, through selfless service, the grip of ego gradually loosens. You begin to sense a divine presence moving quietly through your thoughts, guiding your actions with wisdom far beyond human reasoning. This presence brings an inner security that no wealth or worldly power could ever offer. It is the unshakable knowing that you are carried by divine love, watched over by Spirit's infinite care, and that your destiny is not bound to fleeting circumstances, but anchored in eternal freedom. Beloved, when this divine presence becomes your constant companion, life transforms. The noise of restless desires fades into silence. The shadows of fear and doubt vanish in the radiant light of soul consciousness. Even your understanding of relationships shifts profoundly. You no longer seek love to fill a void within, for you discover an inexhaustible wellspring of love flowing from your own soul. This divine love pours effortlessly into every interaction, blessing others not as a duty but as a natural expression of your true self. And as this love expands, you begin to see why Jesus spoke of the kingdom of heaven as being within. It is not a place to be entered after death, nor a reward granted by external authority. It is the awakened state of being, where the soul recognizes its oneness with God. This is why he said that even a mustard seed of faith can move mountains. For when faith is rooted in divine realization, the seeming limits of the world dissolve in the boundless power of Spirit. This is the path Yogananda urged every soul to walk, not through blind obedience to tradition, but through personal, direct experience of God. When you close your eyes in meditation and feel the gentle hum of life force ascending your spine, when you sense the inner light shining at the spiritual eye, when waves of uncaused joy flood your heart, you begin to understand the very consciousness that guided Jesus. And as you nurture this divine connection day by day, breath by breath, you step into the same realization he carried, that you are not a seeker chasing distant truth, but an eternal child of God, awakening to the truth you have always been. Beloved soul, when you truly awaken to this realization, you no longer walk this world as a beggar searching for crumbs of fleeting happiness. You begin to move as one who has discovered an inexhaustible treasure within, a joy that no sorrow can diminish, a strength that no trial can overcome, a love that no darkness can obscure. This is the inner kingdom Jesus invited you to enter, not through outer rites alone, but through the transformation of consciousness, through the quiet turning inward where Spirit whispers eternal truths. This transformation does not happen in a single moment of inspiration. It unfolds like a sunrise, gradually illuminating every corner of your being. Meditation becomes the sacred dawn of this awakening. Each time you sit in stillness, lifting your gaze to the spiritual eye and drawing your restless mind into divine calm, you are peeling away the layers of delusion that have obscured your soul's radiant nature. At first, it may feel like a faint glow, a quiet peace that touches you briefly before worldly thoughts pull you away. But with devotion and steady practice, that glow grows into a blazing sun of divine presence that shines unbroken within you. As this light expands, you begin to sense the divine guidance that directed Jesus' every step. Decisions that once brought confusion now unfold naturally in the calm knowing of intuition. Situations that once filled you with fear are met with unshakable courage, for you feel the infinite walking beside you. Even the challenges and injustices of life are seen with new eyes, not as cruel punishments or meaningless chaos, but as threads in a greater tapestry of spiritual evolution, each woven by divine wisdom to lead you higher. In this awakened state, beloved, you come to understand that salvation was never meant to be a distant promise given by another, but a living experience of oneness with Spirit here and now. Jesus did not come to create division between those deemed saved and those deemed lost. He came to show every soul that the spark of divinity is already burning within, needing only to be fanned into a living flame through communion with God. When he said, "The Father and I are one," it was not to set himself apart, but to awaken you to your own destiny, that you too are meant to feel this union, to live in this divine truth, and to radiate its transforming light to others. Through the guidance of masters like Yogananda, this path is made clear once more. The practices of meditation and Kriya Yoga open the very doorways of consciousness that Jesus himself walked through, leading you beyond the restless waves of thought into the silent depths of spirit where all souls meet as children of one eternal light. And as you walk this sacred path, the veil of separation that has clouded human understanding for centuries begins to dissolve, revealing a truth as simple as it is profound. You have never been apart from God. You have only forgotten. Beloved, take this moment to let your heart remember. Breathe softly and feel that quiet presence surrounding you even now. Imagine a light, vast and radiant, descending into your being, filling every thought, every feeling, every breath with divine assurance. In this stillness, hear the timeless invitation echoing from the lips of Christ and whispered again through Yogananda, "Come unto me. Awaken to the Father's love. Realize that you and I and all beings are forever one in God." Beloved one, as you allow these words to sink deeper than thought, a profound shift begins within you. The boundaries that once seemed to separate you from the divine, from Jesus, from the eternal masters who walked before you, slowly fade like mist under the morning sun. You begin to understand that spiritual realization is not about climbing toward a distant heaven, but about removing the veils that hide the heaven already present in your soul. When Jesus withdrew into the wilderness for 40 days, it was not to escape the world, but to quiet every wave of human restlessness until only the voice of the Father remained. Yogananda explained that true meditation is this same wilderness of stillness, not an emptiness, but a vast, living presence where divine wisdom and unconditional love flow ceaselessly. Each moment of silence you create in meditation is a step into this wilderness, a step toward hearing the voice of Spirit guiding you just as it guided the great masters. As this inner communion deepens, your consciousness begins to rise above the noise of worldly illusions. The fears that once clung to your heart dissolve in the calm, knowing that you are more than this body, more than the fleeting drama of life. Desires that once consumed your energy lose their power, because you have tasted a joy that far surpasses anything material existence could offer. This is the hidden power of Christ's message, that divine bliss is not reserved for an afterlife but is available now, waiting to be discovered through the awakening of the soul. Beloved, imagine how life changes when you live from this awakened state. Every word you speak carries a vibration of peace. Every action you take becomes an offering of love. Every challenge you face transforms into a doorway for spiritual growth. You begin to walk as Jesus walked, not burdened by the weight of earthly concerns, but uplifted by the certainty that Spirit is the unseen hand shaping every moment. Others may not fully understand the calm that surrounds you, but they will feel it, drawn unconsciously toward the light of your divine presence. This is what Yogananda meant when he said that the teachings of Jesus and the science of yoga are not separate streams, but the same river of truth flowing through different lands and ages. Both lead to the same ocean of self-realization, where the soul knows its eternal unity with God. Through the path of meditation, devotion, and selfless service, You can enter this river and be carried by its current to the same realization that Jesus embodied. And when you reach even a glimpse of that state, beloved, you will no longer wonder what Jesus really taught. You will feel it pulsing through your own consciousness, that the kingdom of heaven is a living presence within you, that divine love is your true nature, and that every soul is destined to awaken and shine as a radiant child of the infinite Father. In this realization, all doubt vanishes, all separation ends, and you stand not as a seeker of truth but as truth itself, eternal and free, in the boundless embrace of spirit. Beloved soul, as this truth begins to unfold within you, something extraordinary happens. The teachings of Jesus no longer appear as distant words etched in Scripture, nor as lofty ideals unattainable by ordinary beings. Instead, they become a living, breathing presence in your own lives, a quiet revolution that transforms how you see yourself, others, and the entire universe. You start to perceive that every breath is infused with divine intelligence, that every beat of your heart is synchronized with the rhythm of the cosmos. You feel a sacred interconnectedness, recognizing that every soul you encounter is not a stranger but an expression of the same eternal spirit that animates you. This is what Jesus meant when he said, "Whatsoever you do to the least of these, you do also unto me." It was not a moral instruction alone, but a statement of divine fact. Beneath the masks of human individuality, there is only one life, one light, one God flowing through all. Yogananda often reminded us that Christ consciousness is not a far-off gift, bestowed only upon a chosen few. It is the birthright of every soul. When you quiet the mind through meditation, when you lift your consciousness upward beyond the distractions of the senses, you begin to awaken this Christ consciousness within yourself. At first, it may feel like a whisper of peace, a fleeting moment of bliss, a glimpse of clarity that pierces through the fog of daily life. But with devotion and persistence, this inner light grows, until it becomes the guiding force of your entire existence. In this awakened state, you live in the same divine current that flowed through Jesus' every word and action. You forgive as he forgave, not because you force yourself to, but because you see the divine innocence in every soul. You love as he loved, not as an effortful virtue, but as the natural radiance of your being. Even life's trials lose their sting, for you recognize that nothing can truly harm the eternal spirit that you are. Like Jesus, you begin to walk through the world carrying a serenity that no storm can disturb, a light that no darkness can extinguish. Beloved, imagine the transformation awaiting you as you fully embrace this path. The burdens of guilt, fear, and limitation fall away like old garments. The relentless search for meaning outside yourself ends, for you have found the source of all meaning within. You begin to live as a spiritual master in your own right, not one worshiping Jesus from afar, but one walking beside him in the same vibration of divine realization. This is the unfiltered revelation of what Jesus truly taught, that every soul is a radiant spark of God destined to awaken into full divine consciousness. And Yogananda came to remind us of this eternal truth, offering the ancient tools of meditation and self-realization that allow you to experience it directly. No belief, no ritual, no outward act can substitute for this inner awakening. When you step onto this path sincerely, when you open your heart completely to God's presence, you begin to taste for yourself the living freedom that Jesus promised, and you know without doubt that you and the Father are, and have always been, one. Beloved one, as this realization settles into your heart like a dawn slowly rising over a quiet sea, you come to understand that what you have been seeking was never truly lost. All along, the light of God has been shining within you, waiting for you to lift the veil of forgetfulness and behold your own divine essence. Jesus knew this truth fully, which is why he spoke with such authority, not from intellectual knowledge or mere belief, but from direct experience of spirit flowing through every fiber of his being. This direct experience is the very foundation of true spirituality. Yogananda came to remind the modern world that faith alone, without inner realization, is like a seed that has never been planted. You may hold it, admire it, even speak of its potential beauty, but only when you place it into the fertile soil of meditation and devotion does it grow into the towering tree of divine wisdom. In the stillness of meditation, you water this seed with the light of your attention, nourish it with the warmth of your love for God, and shield it from the weeds of doubt and distraction. Slowly, steadily, the divine presence within you sprouts and grows until it becomes an unshakable reality that permeates your thoughts, words, and deeds. As this inner transformation deepens, life itself begins to mirror your awakened state. What once felt like chaos reveals itself as divine order. What once seemed like suffering transforms into sacred lessons, each moment carefully crafted by the infinite to guide you toward higher understanding. The relationships that once bound you with conflict or fear are transmuted into opportunities for compassion and forgiveness. Even the ordinary rhythms of daily life, walking, eating, speaking, become acts of silent worship, each infused with an awareness of spirit moving through you and through all. Beloved, this is what it truly means to follow Jesus, not to idolize his human form, nor to cling to external doctrines, but to walk the same inner path he walked, to live in the same divine communion he lived. Yogananda explained that Jesus was not a solitary miracle, but a living example of the destiny awaiting every soul willing to turn inward and awaken. When Jesus said, "Greater works than these shall you do," he was not speaking in riddles. He was declaring a divine promise that as you deepen your realization of oneness with God, the same light that shone through him will shine through you, performing works of transformation far beyond what the limited human mind can imagine. This, beloved, is the hidden teaching that has echoed through the ages, often buried beneath layers of misunderstanding and fear. It is a teaching not of separation, judgment, and exclusivity, but of unity, grace, and boundless love. It is the teaching that you are not a fallen creature begging for distant mercy, but an eternal child of the divine, temporarily veiled in human form, destined to awaken and return consciously to the infinite spirit from which you have never truly departed. Pause for a moment now, and let this truth resonate in the quiet of your own heart. Feel the presence of Christ consciousness stirring within you, as though a long-forgotten song is beginning to play softly in the background of your soul. With every breath, this song grows louder, filling you with peace, love, and a deep, unshakable joy. This is the silent voice of spirit, calling you home, reminding you that the kingdom of heaven is not a faraway dream, but the living reality of your soul right now. And as you heed this call, as you meditate, pray, and live in divine remembrance, you will one day stand fully awake, radiant with the same light that Jesus carried, declaring with certainty, "I and the Father are one." Beloved soul, as this light expands within you, you begin to sense a profound shift in your purpose for living. No longer do you see yourself merely as a wanderer tossed by the waves of fate, nor as a fragile being striving endlessly to survive and succeed in a world of fleeting shadows. You begin to recognize yourself as an eternal soul on a divine mission, sent into this earthly realm not to accumulate possessions or cling to temporary identities, but to rediscover your unity with Spirit and to help others awaken to that same sacred truth. This is why Jesus walked among humanity, not to build earthly kingdoms or to amass followers for his own glory, but to serve as a beacon of divine remembrance, a living guide showing every soul that spiritual liberation is not only possible but is the highest calling of life itself. Yogananda explained that Jesus and all the great masters carry the same silent message: awaken, beloved child of God, and reclaim your birthright of divine joy. The trials and triumphs of this world are but lessons in the cosmic school, each experience designed to draw you closer to the realization that only God is real, and only God's love can fulfill the longing of the heart. Through meditation and inner communion, you begin to experience this truth firsthand. As you close your eyes and lift your gaze to the spiritual eye, feeling the breath flow in gentle rhythm, the restless noise of the mind begins to subside. The worries that once weighed so heavily upon you loosen their grip, like autumn leaves falling silently to the ground. In their place arises a stillness so profound that you feel as though you are sinking into the very heart of eternity. Within that silence, a presence stirs a warm, radiant awareness that is not separate from you but is your very essence. It is this presence that Jesus spoke of when he said, "The kingdom of God is within you." Beloved, imagine the transformation of life when you live anchored in this inner kingdom. No storm of circumstance can uproot your peace. No worldly